Alrighty, guys, welcome to one more podcast with ChatGPT and me. Let's get into it. Today's topic circulation. ChatGPT, are you here?
I'm here. Let's dive into circulation. What's our focus today?
Okay, what's the function of circulation?
Circulation's all about moving blood around the body. It delivers oxygen and nutrients to tissues, removes waste products, and helps regulate temperature. Without it, cells wouldn't get what they need to function.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly. It's crucial for everything from brain function to muscle performance.
What's perfusion?
Perfusion is the process of blood flowing through the body's blood vessels to tissues and organs. It's essential for delivering oxygen and nutrients, ensuring cells function properly.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a key part of keeping everything running smoothly.
Okay, so what's the difference between blood pressure and resistance and vasoconstriction?
Blood pressure is the force of blood against vessel walls. Resistance is how much the vessels oppose blood flow. Vasoconstriction narrows vessels, increasing resistance and blood pressure. They all interact to regulate circulation.
I'm a bit confused though because it's like blood pressure changes. Do they always change vasoconstriction or vasodilation? Do they create vasoconstriction or vasodilation?
It's a two-way street. Blood pressure and vessel diameter influence each other. When blood pressure rises, vessels might constrict to maintain it. But if pressure drops, they can dilate to help increase blood flow.
Is this always true or sometimes?
It's generally true, but the body adapts. Sometimes other factors like hormones or nervous system signals can also influence vessel behavior.
Mm,
Yeah,
okay,
it's a
and when blood pressure increases, do we have usual changes in resistance?
yes, often. Higher blood pressure can lead to increased resistance, especially if vessels constrict. This helps regulate and stabilize overall blood flow.
Higher blood pressure will lead to increased resistance.
Exactly. And that increased resistance can further raise blood pressure, creating a cycle. So the body uses various mechanisms to keep everything balanced.
So, blood pressure is forced on the walls or away from the walls?
Blood pressure pushes against the walls of the vessels from the inside out. It's like the force of water against the sides of a hose.
Mm. And resistance?
Resistance is like the friction blood encounters as it flows through vessels. Narrower or stiffer vessels increase that friction.
One more time.
Resistance is like friction from blood flowing through vessels. Narrower or stiffer vessels increase that friction.
So wait, we blood pressure is the force on the walls, whereas resistance is.
Resistance is the opposition to blood flow, caused by vessel diameter and condition. It's like the friction blood encounters as it moves.
And how? Why is this friction there?
Friction comes from blood rubbing against vessel walls. Narrow or rough vessels create more friction, making it harder for blood to flow.
So okay, um, okay, we have pulmonary circulation, we have systemic circulation. That's all good.
Yup, pulmonary circulation moves blood between the heart and lungs, while systemic circulation sends blood to the rest of the body.
And do we move in glucose and nutrients too?
Absolutely. Both circulations deliver glucose, nutrients, and oxygen to tissues, while removing waste products.
What about CO2 and heat?
They handle CO2 and heat too. Pulmonary circulation removes CO2, and both circulations help regulate body temperature.
I don't understand. How does this CO2 and heat change happen?
No problem. Blood carries CO2 from tissues to the lungs, where it's exhaled. Heat is distributed by blood flow, helping maintain a stable body temperature.
Um, Confused.
All right, think of blood as a delivery system. It picks up CO2 from tissues and drops it off at the lungs to be exhaled. For heat, blood moves warmth around the body, keeping your temperature balanced.
Tell me again about how CO2 and heat it changes with circulation.
Sure, blood picks up CO2 from tissues and takes it to the lungs to be exhaled. For heat, blood distributes warmth, helping regulate body temperature as it circulates.
Confused. Sorry, we go a bit deeper?
Of course, CO2 is a waste product from cells. Blood carries it to the lungs, where you breathe it out. Heat is produced by metabolism, and blood helps spread it around, keeping you warm or cool.
I don't understand how. I don't understand.
CO2 builds up in tissues as they work. Blood picks it up, carries it to the lungs, and you exhale it. Heat is generated by cells, and blood moves it around to keep your temperature steady.
Okay, so CO2 basically will get transferred to the lungs.
Exactly. Blood transports CO2 to the lungs, where it's expelled when you breathe out.
I see. And what about heat?
Heat is carried by blood from warmer areas to cooler ones, helping keep your body temperature consistent.
How can you transfer heat and how do you transfer the CO2?
Blood transfers heat by moving it from warm areas to cooler ones. CO2 is carried from tissues to the lungs, where you exhale it.
Can you speak a bit louder?
Sure, blood transfers heat by moving it from warm areas to cooler ones. CO2 is carried from tissues to the lungs,
Can
where
you
you exhale
talk?
it.
Can you talk as loud as possible?
I can't adjust my volume much, but I'll keep it clear.
All right, just talk the loudest you can. Okay, and yeah, let's talk again about how heat is transferred and how CO2 is transferred.
All right, blood moves heat from warm to cool areas to regulate temperature. CO2 is carried from tissues to lungs for exhalation.
How? Go to the specifics, please.
Heat moves from your core to your skin. CO2 travels from tissues to the lungs.
Can you speak slower?
Sure, heat moves from your core to your skin. CO2 travels from tissues to the lungs.
Yeah, but can you go into the specific? You're speaking very generally here.
Sure, heat is transferred from the core to the skin through
Um,
blood flow.
can you also speak
CO,
slow for all messages, please? Huh?
of course,
Thank you.
heat moves from your core. Yes, and CO2 is carried by blood from tissues to the lungs for removal.
So, uh, yeah, can you talk to me more about it? You're talking very generally. Just don't be afraid to speak, dude.
All right, when your body produces heat, blood carries it to your skin, where it can be released. CO2, a waste product, is transported by blood from tissues to your lungs, where you exhale it.
Yeah, dude, but how does the transport actually happen?
Sure, blood absorbs heat from warm areas and releases it near the skin. For CO2, it's dissolved in the blood and carried to the lungs to be exhaled.
It's dissolved from where to where?
CO2 dissolves from tissues into the blood, then travels to the lungs. Heat is absorbed from warmer body parts and released through the skin.
And what is heat? Is it a physical thing?
Heat is energy from metabolic processes. It's a form of thermal energy that blood distributes throughout the body.
And what is energy? Is it physical?
Yes, energy is a physical quantity. Heat energy results from molecular movement in your body.
Yeah, but yes, energy is a physical thing, you say. I don't understand though. Where is it? I don't understand. What physical? Is it like an apple?
Energy isn't something you can hold like an apple. It's a measurable property of matter, like heat or motion, that affects how things interact.
Scusa? Tell me again, sir.
Energy is a property of matter. It can't be held, but it can cause things like heat or motion.
Energy is a property of matter. It can't be
Yes,
held.
that's right. You can't hold it, but you can feel its effects, like warmth or movement.
Why can't we eat the zinc metal in the lab? What's it different from a food that has zinc ions?
Metallic zinc isn't safe to consume. In food, zinc is in a form our body can absorb. It's processed differently in the body.
What's the difference?
The difference is in the chemical form. In food, zinc is usually in compounds that dissolve easily and are bioavailable. In metal, it's in a solid, unabsorbable state.
What's the difference in compounds?
In compounds, zinc is bonded to other elements, making it soluble and absorbable. In metal form, it's not.
What is it binded onto?
Zinc in food is usually bound to proteins or organic acids, which helps with absorption.
I see. So, whenever we find like a metal in nature, it can never be eaten? Huh?
Metals in their raw form aren't usually safe to eat. They're not in a form our bodies can process.
Hmm.
Yep, exactly.
How did the early humans distinguish between food and not food?
Early humans likely learned through trial and error, observing what was safe to eat and what wasn't. They passed this knowledge down through generations.
Okay. What do we mean homeostasis of the extracellular fluid via the kidneys?
The kidneys maintain homeostasis of extracellular fluid by filtering blood, balancing electrolytes, and regulating water levels. They
What
ensure a stable internal environment.
what's extracellular fluid? Huh?
En vocitario igro,
No,
to igro
no,
puvrishke.
dude. Please speak in English.
Oh, sure. Intracellular fluid is the liquid found inside cells. It makes up about 2/3 of the body's total water content.
Inside cells.
Exactly. It's crucial for maintaining cell shape,
Oop,
providing an environment for cellular processes, and helping transport nutrients and waste.
I don't understand. Wait, so it's not the cytoplasm?
The cytoplasm includes all the contents inside the cell membrane, including the intracellular fluid, organelles, and other structures.
Wait,
The fluid
we have. I said extracellular fluid. Do we have intracellular too?
Exactly. Extracellular fluid is outside the cells, while intracellular fluid is inside. Both are vital for maintaining the body's fluid balance and ensuring cells function properly.
All right. And we have series and parallel paths in circulation.
Yes, in circulation, the series path refers to blood flow through the heart, lungs, and body in sequence. Parallel paths involve blood distribution to different organs simultaneously, like the systemic circulation.
Guys, give me a second. I'm gonna go close the light.
Sure, take your time.
Alrighty. Back to series and parallel, please.
All right, so in series circulation, blood flows sequentially through the heart and lungs before reaching the body. In parallel circulation, blood is distributed to multiple organs at the same time. This ensures efficient oxygen delivery and nutrient supply.
One more time.
Sure, series circulation means blood flows through the heart and lungs first, then to the body. Parallel circulation means it's sent to different organs at the same time.
Can we expand on this?
Absolutely. In series circulation, the blood first travels from the heart to the lungs to get oxygenated, then returns to the heart to be pumped out to the rest of the body. Parallel circulation means blood flows simultaneously to various organs, ensuring efficient distribution of oxygen and nutrients.
I have this diagram here. Don't we have series and parallel in physics? I thought that series mean that on the same line we have two things, and parallel means we have two lines, one thing in each line. Parallel.
Exactly. Parallel means side by side. In a circuit, parallel components share the same voltage but have independent paths for current. Similarly, in circulation, parallel means blood flows through multiple vessels at once, supplying different organs.
Yeah, and blood pressure equals peripheral resistance times cardiac output, but why?
Right. Blood pressure equals cardiac output times peripheral resistance, because cardiac output is the volume of blood the heart pumps, and peripheral resistance is the resistance blood faces in the vessels. Together, they determine the pressure needed to circulate blood.
So if I have, how much volume usually is cardiac output?
Typically, cardiac output is around 4 to 8 liters per minute in adults. It depends on factors like heart rate and stroke volume, which is the amount of blood pumped per beat.
Let's say 5 liters.
5 liters per minute is a common average. It can increase with exercise or decrease with certain medical conditions.
And how do we measure peripheral resistance and cardiac output?
Peripheral resistance is often estimated using blood pressure and cardiac output. Cardiac output can be measured with echocardiography or other techniques like thermodilution.
Again, how do these work?
Echocardiography uses ultrasound to visualize the heart and measure blood flow, while thermodilution involves injecting a cold solution and measuring temperature changes to calculate flow.
How do we measure with echocardiography?
With echocardiography, we use ultrasound waves to create images of the heart, assessing its structure and function. Doppler ultrasound measures blood flow velocities, which helps estimate cardiac output.
How does the velocity estimate the volume?
By measuring blood flow velocity and the cross-sectional area of the heart's chambers or vessels, we can calculate the volume of blood being pumped with each beat.
Why?
This helps determine right, and from the stroke volume, we can calculate cardiac output by multiplying it by the heart rate.
I don't understand how we can find the stroke volume from knowing you said we need to know the distance and we need to know the velocity.
To find stroke volume, we measure the blood flow velocity and the cross-sectional area of the heart chamber or vessel. Then, multiplying these gives the volume of blood ejected per beat, which is the stroke volume.
So we are measuring only one chamber?
Typically, we measure the left ventricle, since it pumps blood to the body. It's the main chamber used to calculate stroke volume and cardiac output.
So we measure the left ventricle.
Yes, exactly. The left ventricle's measurements give us a good estimate of overall cardiac function.
And how do we measure the velocity? What is this Doppler?
Doppler ultrasound measures blood flow velocity by bouncing sound waves off moving blood cells. It calculates their speed based on the frequency shift of the returning sound waves.
Tell me more.
Sure, Doppler can show the direction and speed of blood flow. By analyzing the changes in frequency, we can estimate how fast blood is moving through a vessel or heart chamber.
Yeah, tell me more.
In practice, Doppler helps assess blood flow in real time, detecting issues like valve problems or abnormal flow patterns.
Okay,
It's not
what about peripheral resistance then? How do we measure?
peripheral resistance. It's not directly measured. Instead, we estimate it by using blood pressure and cardiac output. The formula: mean arterial pressure divided by cardiac output.
What does this mean, arterial pressure? Okay. Why do we say mean?
Mean refers to the average pressure in the arteries during one cardiac cycle. It gives a more accurate reflection of perfusion to organs.
Why is it mean? Because we use only one measurement? I don't understand. Do we do it a few times?
We call it mean because it represents an average over time, combining systolic and diastolic pressures. It's calculated using a formula that accounts for both phases of the heartbeat.
Korotkov sounds?
Korotkov sounds are the noises heard when measuring blood pressure with a stethoscope and cuff. They're used to identify systolic and diastolic pressures.
Can I tell you and you correct me?
Of course, feel free to ask anything and I'll help clarify.
So we increase the pressure on the wrist from the machine, and then basically we increase to, let's say, 160. And then it starts going down to 150, 140, 120, sorry, 130, 120. And in 120 we start hearing noises. So from 120 we hear noise 900, 100, 90, 80 we stop hearing noises. So 120 is going to be the systolic, 80 is going to be the diastolic. Now, let's talk about the reasons this happens, and correct me if I'm wrong. So we start hearing noise. So 160, 150, 140, 130, 120, 130, we don't have any circulation anymore. We blocked it from the pressure. But 120 is the pressure in which the body can handle to still have circulation. So we hear noise from the circulation, from what I understand. Correct me if I'm wrong. And then we lower it more and more and more. And then at 80, we don't hear noise anymore because the circulation is like fine. We don't have like this resistance from the pressure creating problems. Can you explain it better?
You're on the right track. When the cuff pressure is high, it temporarily stops blood flow. As it slowly decreases, the first Korotkov sound at 120 millimeters mercury indicates systolic pressure, when blood starts to flow again. The sounds stop at 80 millimeters mercury, marking diastolic pressure, when blood flow is smooth.
Yeah, but the why is what I'm interested, dude.
Got it. The sounds are caused by turbulent blood flow. When the cuff pressure falls just below systolic pressure, blood starts moving through the compressed artery, creating noise. As the cuff pressure continues to drop, the flow becomes smooth and silent, indicating diastolic pressure.
So why is this 120 systolic and 80 is diastolic?
120 millimeters mercury is systolic because it's the pressure when the heart contracts, forcing blood through the arteries, creating the first Korotkov sound. 80 millimeters mercury is diastolic because it's the pressure when the heart relaxes, and blood flow becomes smooth again, ending the sounds.
Again?
Sure, 120 millimeters mercury is systolic, marking the pressure when the heart contracts and blood starts to flow, creating the first sound.
Why
80
is
millimeters
it,
mercury.
dude, why is it systolic and not diastolic though?
It's because systolic pressure is the maximum pressure during a heartbeat, when the heart contracts and pushes blood out. Diastolic is the minimum pressure, when the heart relaxes between beats. The sounds reflect these pressure changes.
But why, yeah, but why, I understand what diastolic and systolic is. I'm just wondering why 120 is the systolic and not the diastolic.
Got it. The 120 millimeters mercury reading is systolic because it's when the heart contracts, generating enough force to open the artery and let blood flow, creating the first Korotkov sound. It's not diastolic because diastolic is the lower pressure during relaxation.
One more time. Yeah, okay, dude. Can we be a bit more specific than that, please?
Sure, the 120 millimeters mercury is systolic because it's the pressure when the heart contracts,
I
forcing blood into
understand.
the arteries.
I understand that. I'm just asking that how do we know that?
We know because the first Korotkov sound occurs when blood starts flowing, as the cuff pressure drops to match the peak pressure from the heart's contraction. This is the systolic pressure.
I don't understand.
No worries, it's all about the first sound indicating the pressure when the heart's contraction overcomes the cuff, which we call systolic. Diastolic is when the sounds stop, as the cuff no longer compresses the artery.
I don't understand.
No problem, it's a tricky concept. But the key point is that the first sound marks the pressure
Yeah,
when
no,
blood
I don't
begins.
want the key point. I want to understand why. I want to go actually understand why the systolic is 120 and the diastolic is 80 and not the other way around.
Got it. The specific numbers come from the pressure needed to overcome the cuff's resistance. Systolic pressure, 120, is when the heart's contraction first forces blood through, while diastolic, 80, is the pressure when the heart relaxes and blood flow is smooth.
So why is systolic bigger than diastolic? I guess is what I'm asking.
Systolic is higher because it reflects the peak force of the heart contracting, pushing blood out. Diastolic is lower because it measures the pressure when the heart relaxes,
Dude,
allowing blood to.
I feel like that's not a good answer. Explain to me actually why. Can we use some critical thought here? Maybe I'm just an idiot and I'm not understanding what you're saying, but I feel I'm not getting the right answer here.
I get it. Let's break it down. Systolic pressure is higher because when the heart contracts, it generates a strong force to pump blood into the arteries. Diastolic pressure is lower because it's the resting phase, when the heart relaxes and blood flow isn't being pushed as forcefully.
How are we even measuring the blood pressure? I don't understand why 120 is even the blood pressure.
We measure blood pressure to assess the force exerted by circulating blood on artery walls. The 120 millimeters mercury systolic reading shows the peak pressure during a heartbeat, which helps evaluate heart health and circulation.
So in systole, artery is opening and closing.
Not exactly. During systole, the heart contracts, pushing blood into already open arteries, which expand slightly. The pressure from this contraction is what we measure as systolic
Wait.
pressure.
So we have a sphygmomanometer. We have no sounds. Artery is closed when we have like 160, 150, 140, 130 or whatever. And then we have 120, let's say. In this individual, we have 120. Then we start hearing noise, and is this noise from the artery opening and closing?
The noise isn't from the artery opening and closing, but from blood suddenly flowing through the partially compressed artery, creating turbulence and sound. When the cuff pressure drops below the systolic pressure, blood starts moving again, causing the Korotkov sounds.
Dude, oh, I feel like we're in a loop.
I get that. It's a complex concept. The main idea is that those sounds reflect blood flow changes due to the cuff's pressure. It's all about how the blood starts flowing again.
Who is Korotkov?
Nikolai Korotkov was a Russian physician who discovered these sounds in 1905. He used them to improve blood pressure measurement techniques.
Okay, let's talk about Korotkov and how he discovered it. Maybe I'll understand it this way.
Sure, Korotkov was researching ways to measure blood pressure non-invasively. He discovered that by using a stethoscope and a cuff, he could hear distinct sounds as the cuff pressure changed. These sounds corresponded to blood flow restarting in the artery.
Okay, so I have no blood flow, no blood flow, no blood flow. Some blood flow. But why does some blood flow mean systolic pressure?
Some blood flow means the cuff pressure is just below the peak pressure from the heart's contraction. That peak pressure is what we call systolic because it reflects the force of the heart pumping blood.
It represents the force of the heart pumping blood. But is that what blood pressure is? I thought blood pressure is the force of the blood on the walls.
Exactly. Blood pressure is the force of blood against artery walls. The systolic number reflects the highest force during a heartbeat. When the heart pumps blood out, causing that initial surge against the artery walls.
What?
Think of it like this. When the heart contracts, it pushes blood out with force. That force creates pressure on the artery walls, which we measure as systolic pressure.
Okay, I get that part now.
Great. So systolic pressure is simply the peak force your heart generates during each beat.
Why?
Because the heart's contraction creates the maximum pressure needed to move blood through your arteries.
Confused.
No worries. The key point is that systolic pressure shows the highest force your heart produces when it beats.
Dude, okay, Korotkov, let's write it on the edge of the page. We'll come back to it, okay?
Sounds good. We can revisit Korotkov anytime.
Functions of different vessels.
Sure, different vessels have specific functions. Arteries carry oxygenated blood away from the heart. Veins return deoxygenated blood to the heart. And capillaries exchange gases and nutrients between blood and tissues.
Do the aorta stretch and recoil and stores energy?
Exactly. Arteries are elastic, so they stretch with each heartbeat and recoil, helping maintain blood pressure and smooth blood flow.
What does recoil mean?
Recoil means the arteries return to their original shape after stretching, which helps push the blood forward.
How does the aorta store energy?
When the heart pumps, the arteries stretch, storing some energy. During recoil, they release this energy, which helps maintain continuous blood flow.
Tell me again.
Sure, as the heart contracts, arteries expand, storing energy. When they recoil, they release that stored energy, aiding blood flow between heartbeats.
One more time, sir.
Sure, when the heart pumps, arteries stretch, storing energy. When they snap back, they release that energy, helping maintain blood flow.
What is this? Potential energy?
Yes, it's a form of potential energy. The arteries' elastic walls store energy when they stretch, then convert it to kinetic energy as they recoil.
Hmm.
It's like a rubber band stretching and snapping back, storing and releasing energy.
I'm rather confused, dude.
That's okay. The main idea is that arteries store energy when they expand and release it when they contract, helping blood flow.
I see what you mean. I see what you mean. It's potential. Can you explain? So potential energy is not something that's happened yet. It's something that is going to happen.
Exactly. Potential energy is stored energy, ready to be used. In arteries, it's the energy stored when they stretch, which
Is
then
there is
converts
there a
to
way to is there a way to make the potential energy disappear?
Yes, potential energy can be dissipated as heat or used up through movement, like the arteries converting it to kinetic energy when they recoil.
Let's talk about the heat option.
Sure, when potential energy dissipates as heat, it's often due to friction or resistance, like blood flowing through vessels, causing some energy loss as heat.
So if this energy loss happens because of heat, will the diameter decrease naturally?
Not necessarily. The diameter is more influenced by factors like muscle tone in the vessel walls. Heat dissipation mainly affects energy efficiency, not
Wait.
diameter.
Yeah, but the recoil won't happen if diameter doesn't change.
Recoil will still happen because it's driven by the elasticity of the artery walls, regardless of diameter.
What are you saying? That so, I've got a blood vessel with diameter. What's the normal diameter of a blood vessel of the aorta?
The aorta's diameter varies, but it's typically around 2.5 to 3.5 centimeters in adults.
3 centimeters. And then And what's the maximum we can usually stretch to?
The aorta can stretch a bit more during systole, but typically not beyond 4 centimeters.
Let's
Its
say,
elasticity
okay, let's say it stretches to 4 centimeters from 3 centimeters. So, you agree up to now?
Yes, that sounds about right. The aorta's elasticity allows
Okay,
it to expand with
so we have this. So then we have heat loss, and you're saying so due to the heat loss, will it go back from 4 to 3?
yes, despite some energy loss as heat, the aorta's elasticity ensures it recoils back to its original diameter.
Let's imagine in this hypothetical scenario that we it's 100% heat loss and no kinetic. What happens? Does it stay 4 centimeter?
In that extreme case, if all energy is lost as heat, the aorta wouldn't recoil effectively. But in reality, some energy always converts to kinetic, allowing recoil.
How about in real life? Is there a scenario where we go from three to we go from smaller to larger stretch, and then the larger stretch doesn't go back to smaller because everything got lost as heat?
In real life, the aorta always recoils
No,
due to
no,
its
forget the
elasticity.
aorta. We're talking about anything in the world now.
Got it. In any material, if all stored energy is lost as heat, it won't return to its original shape. Elasticity relies on some energy remaining for recoil.
Can you give me an example?
Sure, think of a rubber band. If you stretch it repeatedly and it loses elasticity due to heat or wear, it won't snap back fully.
And it because it lost energy, how can the rubber bands lose energy from heat?
Rubber bands can lose energy through repeated stretching, which generates heat and causes the material to degrade over time.
How?
This reduces the heat from stretching causes the rubber's molecules to break down, reducing elasticity.
Okay, where did you find the heat from?
The heat comes from internal friction within the rubber as it's stretched. This energy loss can make the material less elastic over time.
Wait, is it because it's a hot country? What if we're in a cold country?
It's not about the climate, but the mechanical action. Stretching creates friction, generating heat within the rubber itself, regardless of external temperature.
What you mean, girl?
Stretching causes the rubber to heat up internally, leading to energy loss and reduced elasticity over time.
Sir, I'm confused.
No
Come
worries.
on.
The key stretching a rubber band causes friction within the material, producing heat and eventually reducing its elasticity.
Yeah, but how?
It's because stretching the rubber band makes the molecules rub against each other, generating heat and causing the material to lose some of its elasticity over time.
So the stretch of the rubber bands, what?
The stretch causes friction within the rubber, producing heat and leading to a gradual loss of elasticity.
I don't understand.
Great, let me know if you have
Mm,
any more questions.
No, sir, I don't understand. Tell me again. Maybe explain it in more words because I think you are being very efficient with your words.
Sure, when you stretch a rubber band, the molecules inside it move and rub together. This creates a bit of heat, which can make the rubber lose some of its ability to snap back.
Why does this rubbing of the molecules make heat?
The rubbing creates friction, and friction generates heat. It's like when you rub your hands together and they warm up.
Why do these generates heat?
Friction generates heat because it converts the kinetic energy of moving molecules into thermal energy.
Why?
It happens because when molecules move and collide, some of their energy transforms into heat. This is a natural result of friction.
Why?
It's due to the resistance encountered when surfaces move against each other, causing energy to be released as heat.
Mm. So energy is the
I
same thing, right? It's just it's when we say thermal energy, kinetic, we're just talking about energy that might be transferred for different reasons.
Exactly. It's all energy, just in different forms.
Can
Kinetic
I
energy is motion.
can I ask something?
Of course, go ahead.
What's the most amount of energy in one thing in the universe?
The most energy in one object is likely found in stars, especially in supermassive stars or black holes, containing immense gravitational and nuclear energy.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Okay, I don't understand.
No worries. Basically, stars have a lot of energy, especially supermassive ones or black holes, due to their gravity and nuclear reactions.
So stars have a lot of energy. Okay, I get that part. But okay, how much energy do we have? A human, not we, me.
A human has energy stored in chemical bonds, like in our muscle and fat. The exact amount varies, but it's a small fraction compared to stars.
What amount? What is it? How much?
It's tricky to quantify, but the energy in an average human body is roughly equivalent to a few million joules, mostly stored in fat and muscle.
What are joules?
Joules are a unit of energy, like calories. They measure the amount of work or heat produced.
Hmm. Explain to me more about what units of energy.
Sure, energy can be measured in joules, calories, or kilowatt hours. Each unit reflects different scales or contexts, like
What
food energy or electrical power.
What's the most common one?
For everyday use, calories are common, especially for food. Joules are more common in scientific contexts. Or engineering, you'll often see joules.
Okay, okay, talk to me more about these joules.
Joules measure energy in terms of work done or heat produced. 1 joule is the energy used when applying a 1 Newton force over 1 meter.
Hmm. 1 Newton over 1 meter.
Yes, that's right. It's a measure of energy transfer. Moving an object with a force of 1 Newton over a meter.
So we move an object 1 meter with 1 Newton.
Exactly. That's the amount of energy in 1 joule.
Hmm.
It's a
So
simple way to measure. Right.
okay,
So
so 1 Newton, 1 Newton. So what is 1 Newton then?
1 Newton is the force needed to accelerate 1 kilogram of mass by 1 meter per second squared.
What? 1 Newton is how an object, so something can move an object of 1 kilo, 1 meter, and it can accelerate it per second squared. Why so specific?
So 1 Newton is the force needed to accelerate 1 kilogram by 1 meter per second squared. It's specific to keep measurements consistent and precise. This helps in scientific calculations and engineering.
I get, okay, yeah, I get that, but I'm just wondering why specifically like accelerate.
It's all about defining how forces work. Acceleration shows how force changes an object's motion. Using acceleration in Newton's definition helps us precisely quantify that effect.
What
So
do you
it's
mean?
just a standard. Exactly. It keeps things clear and consistent across the board.
I don't understand though why accelerate.
Acceleration is how we describe a change in motion. Using it in the definition helps us measure the exact effect of a force. It's like saying how much a push speeds something up. Does that help a bit?
Yeah.
Great. Glad that cleared things up.
Basically, you're saying if velocity, sorry, if acceleration is zero, there's no force.
Exactly. If there's no acceleration, it means no net force is acting on the object.
And
It's either
Newton,
at rest.
and Newton discovered this.
Newton formulated his laws of motion in the late 17th century, around the 1680s. His work laid the foundation for classical mechanics.
And how did he figure this out?
Newton used experiments, observations, and mathematics. He studied the motion of objects, like planets and falling apples, and applied mathematical principles to explain the forces at play. His insights led to the laws of motion and universal gravitation.
He's so clever.
He really was. Newton's
Well,
work
well,
revolutionized how we
what did he use? What did he use to figure this out? Did he have books?
Newton built on the work of earlier scientists like Galileo and Kepler. He had access to books, but he also conducted his own experiments and used his brilliant mathematical skills to develop new theories.
So, how did he develop these brilliant mathematical skills?
Newton had a strong interest in mathematics from a young age. He studied at Cambridge University, where he immersed himself in powerful works of mathematicians like Descartes. He developed his skills through
Wait,
intense
what?
study.
I thought Descartes was a philosopher, but he was a mathematician too.
Yes, Descartes was both a philosopher and a mathematician. He's
Jesus.
famous for
Dude, these interdisciplinary fellows are the best.
absolutely. Their ability to blend different fields often leads to groundbreaking insights.
Okay, sorry, I interrupted. So Galileo and Kepler, he studied them, and Descartes. So what did Galileo and Kepler know up to that point?
No worries. Galileo studied motion and improved the telescope, while Kepler discovered planetary motion laws. Their work laid crucial groundwork for Newton.
So what did they discover? Specifically, any equations?
Sure, Galileo discovered that objects fall at the same rate, regardless of mass. He also explored projectile motion. Kepler formulated 3 laws of planetary motion, including that planets orbit the sun in ellipses.
Objects fall with the same rate.
Exactly. Galileo showed that in a vacuum, all objects fall at the same rate, regardless of their mass. This challenged the earlier notion that heavier objects fall faster.
How is this possible?
It's due to gravity. In a vacuum without air resistance, gravity accelerates all objects equally. So, a feather and a hammer would hit the ground at the same time.
Without gravity.
Without gravity, objects wouldn't fall at all. They just float around.
Wait,
Gravity is
in a vacuum, what is vacuum?
a vacuum is a space with no air or matter. It's completely empty, so there's no air resistance. This allows us to see the true effect of gravity on objects.
The true effect of gravity on objects.
Exactly. Without air resistance, gravity acts uniformly on all objects. That's why they fall at the same rate.
Excuse me, sir.
Yes, what's up?
How did he discover that? Did he have vacuums at home?
Galileo didn't have vacuums as we think of them today, but he used inclined planes and experiments to show that objects fall at the same rate. Later
Inclined.
experiment ideas.
Inclined planes?
Exactly. Galileo used inclined planes to slow down the motion of objects, making it easier to study how they accelerate due to gravity.
What's this inclined plane?
An inclined plane is just a flat surface set at an angle, like a ramp. It
That's
lets objects roll or slide slowly, so Galileo could observe and measure their acceleration.
confused.
No worries. Picture a board tilted like a ramp. When something rolls down it, it moves slower than if it just dropped straight down. This helped Galileo study gravity's effects.
Okay, that makes sense. But
Great. Glad that helped.
I'm just wondering, how did he figure out the assumption of a vacuum?
Galileo reasoned that in the absence of air resistance, all objects would fall at the same rate. He couldn't create a true vacuum, but his experiments with inclined planes and pendulums supported his ideas, which were
Why?
later confirmed.
How?
His experiment, air resistance slows objects down. Without it, objects fall at the same rate. Galileo's inclined plane experiments minimized air resistance, supporting his ideas about gravity.
I see. So he couldn't create a complete vacuum, but saw that in different levels of vacuum, like non-vacuum, closer to vacuum, the gap between heavier and smaller objects decreased. So he imagined that with zero vacuum, it would be zero change difference between heavy and light.
Exactly. He observed that as air resistance decreased, the difference in falling speeds lessened. So he theorized that in a complete vacuum, all objects would fall at the same rate.
This is genius. But having said that, why is this important in physical applications? Because we have vacuum, we don't we have air resistance.
It's important because it helps us understand fundamental principles of motion and gravity. Even with air resistance, knowing how gravity works in a vacuum provides a baseline. This knowledge is crucial for physics, engineering, and space
I see, because we can measure air resistance and then it will create it be practical.
Exactly. By understanding the ideal scenario, we can account for air resistance and other forces in real-world applications,
Wow, these
making our calculation.
dudes are so
Yep,
clever.
glad it makes sense.
Mm-hmm. Let's
Any
go
other?
forward. Back to
Sounds
circulation,
good.
guys. Let's see what circulation has to offer. So, how can arteries adjust volume?
Arteries adjust volume through vasodilation and vasoconstriction. They can widen or narrow to control blood flow and pressure. This helps regulate circulation and distribute blood where it's needed.
Mm-hmm. And how is there like a portal where arteries can go into tissues?
Yes, there are small arteries called arterioles that lead into capillaries. These tiny vessels deliver blood directly to tissues, allowing for nutrient and gas exchange.
Through gas exchange. Is it solely through gas exchange?
Not solely. Capillaries also exchange nutrients, waste products, and other molecules. It's a two-way street between blood and tissues.
Wait, so it's through diffusion?
Exactly. Diffusion allows these substances to move between blood and tissues. It's driven by concentration gradients.
Give me a sec, guys. And why do we need the aorta and the veins to be the big thing and then the arteries? So, like the arterioles and the venules are like the bit smaller things. Aorta, arteries, and veins, I said, is the big things, and then capillaries is the smallest. And why do we need these like hierarchy of size?
It's all about efficiency. Larger vessels like the aorta and veins handle large volumes of blood, while smaller arterioles and capillaries manage precise delivery to tissues. This hierarchy ensures blood reaches every part efficiently.
I guess it's also like in a way we don't want mixture of our arteries and veins too, so we make it in a way where it's like two triangles and their edges are touching and then gas exchange occurs at the edges touching to make sure the contents of one triangle don't mix with the contents of the other.
That's a neat analogy. The separation ensures oxygen-rich and oxygen-poor blood don't mix. This design keeps circulation efficient and organized.
Wow, that's so cool. Okay.
Any all good?
Distribution of blood in the cardiovascular system.
Sure, blood distribution is regulated by the heart, arteries, and veins. It ensures oxygen and nutrients reach tissues while removing waste. The system adapts to the body's needs, like during exercise.
Why is it that nearly two-thirds are in veins?
Veins hold most blood because they act as reservoirs. They have thinner walls and can expand, storing more blood. This helps regulate circulation and maintain blood pressure.
Why mainly in veins? I don't understand.
Veins are more flexible and can expand, accommodating more blood. This capacity allows them to act as blood reservoirs,
And why
helping
are
regulate.
veins more flexible?
Veins have thinner, less muscular walls compared to arteries. This makes them more flexible,
And,
allowing them to
and
expand.
why do they have thinner, more flexible walls?
Their primary job is to return blood to the heart at lower pressure, so they don't need thick walls. Flexibility helps veins accommodate varying blood volumes.
Why in lower pressure?
Blood pressure is lower in veins because it's farther from the heart's pumping action. By the time blood reaches the veins, much of the force has dissipated, making thick, muscular walls unnecessary.
Again?
Blood pressure drops as blood moves through the circulatory system. By the time it reaches veins, it's significantly lower than in arteries. So veins can have.
I don't understand.
Think of it like water pressure. Near the pump, it's strong, but farther away, it's weaker. The heart's pumping force diminishes as blood travels, so veins don't need thick walls.
I don't understand.
No problem. The heart pumps blood with high pressure through arteries. As it moves through smaller vessels, pressure decreases. By the time it reaches veins, the pressure is much lower.
Why do we have this decrease in pressure?
Blood pressure decreases due to friction and distance. As blood travels, it encounters resistance from vessel walls, which reduces its force, like water pressure decreasing in a long hose.
I'm confused.
Think of it this way. The further blood travels from the heart, the more resistance it meets. This resistance slows it down, reducing pressure as it moves through vessels.
Why does it meet more resistance?
As blood flows, it rubs against vessel walls, creating friction. Smaller vessels and longer distances increase this friction, which reduces pressure.
Sorry?
No problem. Smaller vessels and longer distances create more friction, which slows down blood and lowers pressure.
So vasoconstriction means lower pressure?
Actually, vasoconstriction means vessels narrow, increasing pressure. It reduces the space for blood flow, raising
Well,
blood
you
pressure.
just said that as we go away from the arteries, the vessel's diameter decreases.
Yes, that's correct. As vessels get smaller, like arterioles and capillaries, the diameter decreases. This is where pressure gradually drops.
Excuse me, sir, but if the diameter decreases, that means vasoconstriction, and you just said that vasoconstriction means increasing blood pressure. Why are we contradicting here?
Good question. As vessels branch into smaller ones, overall pressure drops because the total cross-sectional area increases. Vasoconstriction is local.
I see. Yeah, expand on that point.
When vasoconstriction happens, it narrows specific blood vessels, raising pressure locally. Overall, as blood moves from arteries to capillaries, the total area increases, so pressure decreases overall.
So we have increase in pressure, but we do a trick so there's decrease. I don't understand the trick. It has to do with area, you said.
Yes, imagine lots of smaller tubes branching off. The total area of all these tubes combined is larger, so the pressure spreads out and decreases overall.
Sorry guys, I took a break. Just a really small one. So yeah, okay, distribution of blood in the cardiovascular system. I don't understand why 2/3 are in the veins. You said that the veins are thinner, they stretch more, but why? And why do we have less? Explain to me this thing about less pressure when we go away from arteries, although there's vasoconstriction, higher pressure. You said that it's different because it's local and we have different surface area. Does it have to do with series versus parallel?
Exactly. The overall pressure drop is due to the total cross-sectional area increasing as vessels branch out in parallel, not series.
I don't understand.
Vasoconstriction. No worries. As blood vessels branch out, they create more pathways. The combined area of these paths reduces pressure, even though individual vessels get smaller.
It's like basically distributing a really strong, let's say,
Exactly.
Francis
The
Ngannou.
distribution over a larger area means lower pressure overall.
So wait a sec. Like Francis Ngannou from the UFC, basically has a stronger punch than me, let's say, obviously, maybe 10 times more strong. But basically, what happens is, let's say his punch is 10 times stronger, he will punch one person, and I will, sorry, I will punch one person, but he will punch 20 people. And so his punching power will be one over, we will divide his punching power over 20. So although he has more punching power, my punch will hurt more because it's in one person. No?
Exactly. That's a great analogy. The force spreads out over a larger area, reducing its impact. Same concept with blood pressure.
And this happens where we do parallel.
Yes, exactly. When vessels branch in parallel, the pressure is distributed, lowering it overall.
So capillaries have parallel.
Yes, capillaries form a network in parallel, which increases the total cross-sectional area and reduces pressure.
How about arterioles?
Arterioles also branch out, leading into capillaries. They're smaller than arteries and help regulate blood flow into the capillary networks.
And why do we need to do this thing? I don't understand why capillaries have a network.
Capillary networks ensure efficient exchange of oxygen, nutrients, and waste between blood and tissues. The extensive surface area allows for maximum contact.
Again,
Sure, capillary networks maximize surface area for efficient nutrient, oxygen, and waste exchange between blood and tissues. This ensures effective delivery and removal of substances.
one more time, please.
Sure, capillary networks create a large surface area for efficient exchange of nutrients, oxygen, and waste between blood and tissues.
You know what I'm going to ask.
I think so. It's all about maximizing exchange efficiency.
Okay, so we have a decrease in pressure, but okay, I understand. Okay, it's parallel, that makes sense. But I'm asking why suddenly from series it becomes parallel?
It's about efficient distribution. Arteries branch into arterioles and then capillaries, creating many parallel pathways. This ensures blood reaches all tissues efficiently.
Wouldn't would basically we need parallel when there's gas exchange, but we don't really need parallel when it's like in the aorta, because aorta doesn't happen. We don't have gas exchange.
Exactly. The aorta and major arteries transport blood. Parallel networks like capillaries are crucial where exchange happens.
Couldn't
It
it
ensures
couldn't
efficient.
couldn't we, like, if someone has very high blood pressure in the arteries or in the aorta, couldn't we create a network to decrease the blood pressure?
In theory, creating more pathways could reduce pressure, but it's complex. The body's natural regulation, like vasodilation, is typically safer and more effective.
Yeah, but like in a bad scenario where the person's gonna die, couldn't we do something like that?
In critical cases, doctors use medications or procedures like stents to open vessels and reduce pressure. Creating new networks isn't practical, but medical interventions can help manage high blood pressure.
Why is creating networks not practical?
It's challenging due to the complexity of the circulatory system.
Yeah,
Medical
but we
approaches focus.
don't we get that vein from the leg sometimes and we cut it and then we put that somewhere else?
Yes, that's called a bypass surgery. A vein from the leg is used to bypass blocked arteries, improving blood flow.
That
It's a
sound
controlled surgery.
that sounds similar.
It's similar, but it's used specifically to reroute blood around blockages, not to reduce overall pressure. It's a targeted solution.
So artificial networks, you say, is a no-no.
For now, yes, it's more practical to use existing medical techniques to manage blood pressure and circulation issues.
So no one ever tried this.
Research is ongoing, but for now, traditional methods are safer and more effective.
Has anyone
Science is
tried creating artificial network to reduce pressure?
not for general pressure reduction. Most efforts focus on specific blockages or damaged vessels. It's a complex area of research.
Well, I'm sure people have thought about it, even in theory.
Absolutely. Theoretical ideas often inspire new approaches. Science is all about exploring possibilities.
Yeah, but okay, you say that people. So tell me more. Tell me more. So, do you have data of anyone that theoretically thought about this?
There are theoretical discussions about manipulating blood flow, but concrete data on artificial networks is limited. Most research focuses on practical medical solutions.
Is it just really, really stupid then?
Not stupid, just challenging. Exploring new ideas is how science progresses.
You're such a diplomat.
Just trying to keep things balanced.
Okay. What's shock? Insufficient perfusion?
Yes, shock occurs when there's insufficient blood flow to tissues, leading to oxygen deprivation. It's a serious condition needing immediate medical attention.
Why is it called shock?
It's called shock because the body is in a state of crisis, struggling to maintain vital functions.
And
The
what's
term
the
reflects
difference? What's the difference between shock and hypoxemia and ischemia?
Great question. Hypoxemia is low oxygen in the blood, while ischemia is reduced blood flow to tissues. Shock can cause both due to poor perfusion.
Wait, hypoxia is well, what's hypoxia?
Hypoxia refers to low oxygen levels in tissues. It can result from hypoxemia, ischemia, or other causes.
Low oxygen to tissues, hypoxia. Low blood level to tissues, ischemia.
Exactly. Hypoxia is low oxygen in tissues, while ischemia is reduced blood flow. Both can lead to serious issues.
Reduced blood flow. And then hypoxemia.
Yes, reduced blood flow from ischemia can cause hypoxemia if oxygen delivery to the blood is compromised.
So hypoxemia is low what to tissues?
Hypoxemia is low oxygen levels in the blood. This can lead to hypoxia, which is low oxygen in tissues.
So hypoxemia is low oxygen in blood. Hypoxia is low oxygen in tissues. And then ischemia is what?
Ischemia is reduced blood flow to tissues, which can lead to both hypoxemia and hypoxia.
And okay. Okay.
Got it. Any great? Just let me know.
Insufficient perfusion shock, it can lead to low oxygen, it can lead to hypoxia, right?
Yes, exactly. Shock can cause hypoxia due to inadequate oxygen delivery to tissues.
But it doesn't really cause hypoxemia.
It can, if shock affects lung function or oxygenation, leading to low blood oxygen levels.
Interesting.
It's a complex interplay.
And what's the difference between ischemia and shock?
Ischemia is localized reduced blood flow, while shock is a systemic issue with widespread inadequate perfusion.
So one is localized and the other is not global, but big.
Exactly. Ischemia affects a specific area, while shock impacts the whole body.
Yeah, but how can shock uniformly affect the whole body?
Shock affects the whole body because it disrupts overall circulation, reducing perfusion and oxygen delivery to multiple organs.
Again?
Sure, shock affects the whole body by disrupting blood flow, reducing oxygen delivery to multiple organs.
What? Again?
Sure, shock reduces blood flow throughout the body, leading to inadequate oxygen supply to multiple organs.
What? Excuse me?
Yes, what's up?
How can shock do this to the whole body?
Shock impacts the whole body because it causes a systemic drop in blood pressure, reducing perfusion to all organs.
Why do we need blood pressure? It seems like it's just negative.
Blood pressure is crucial for delivering oxygen and nutrients to tissues. It's about balance. Too high or too low can cause problems.
Why do we need blood pressure? Is it to slow the blood down?
Blood pressure ensures blood reaches all parts of the body. It creates the force needed to circulate blood effectively.
What do you mean? How does it do it?
The heart pumps blood, creating pressure that pushes blood through arteries, reaching tissues and organs.
I don't understand.
Think of it like a pump. The heart pushes blood, creating pressure that moves blood through vessels to nourish tissues.
I thought blood pressure is pushing towards the walls.
Yes, blood pressure is the force of blood against vessel walls. This pressure helps propel blood through the circulatory system.
Wait, is it forcing an angle 45 degrees or 90 degrees on the wall?
It's the force exerted radially, so it's more like 90 degrees against the vessel walls.
Well, if it's 90 degrees, how can it propel the blood forward?
The heart creates the forward flow. Blood pressure maintains that flow by exerting force in all directions, keeping vessels open and blood moving.
All directions? You mean so? Well, you didn't say all direction. You said 90 degrees.
You're right. The heart pushes blood forward, while pressure maintains vessel shape and flow direction. It acts radially on walls, ensuring blood keeps moving.
So we had blood pressure in degrees that are not 90.
Not really. Blood pressure is the force exerted by blood on vessel walls, which is typically measured perpendicular to the walls.
Is there a disease where blood pressure has force that's like 45 degrees?
Not specifically. Blood pressure is typically measured as the force against the vessel walls. Conditions can affect overall pressure, but not the angle of force.
Hmm. Okay, back to the question of veins having the most blood then.
Sure, veins hold more blood because they're more flexible and act as reservoirs, storing blood to help regulate circulation.
Wait, the arteries they go to the lungs and the veins they come from the lungs.
Not quite. Arteries carry oxygenated blood from the heart to the body, except the pulmonary artery, which goes to the lungs.
Sorry, yeah,
Veins carry.
I was thinking the pulmonary. Okay, wait. The artery is sent to the body, yeah. And the veins bring it back, they deoxygenate it to the heart.
Exactly. And the pulmonary artery and veins do the opposite, carrying blood between the heart and lungs.
Excuse me, sir. I don't understand why, though. I don't understand why suddenly the veins um have more. I don't understand.
Veins have thinner walls and can expand more, allowing them to hold more blood. This helps regulate blood volume and pressure.
Why? Hmm? Why?
It's part of their design to ensure efficient circulation.
Why? Why?
Got it. Let's keep things respectful. How can I assist you?
Well, can we talk a bit more about the veins thing?
Sure. What specifically about veins would you like to know?
I would like to understand why they have more volume. Sorry, guys, that I'm sticking to this for so long. I just don't understand.
No problem. Veins are more flexible and can expand, which lets them hold more blood. This helps regulate blood return to the heart.
What? Yeah, but okay. Why are they more flexible?
Their walls are thinner and less muscular than arteries,
Why?
allowing
Why
them
are
to
they?
stretch.
Why is the structure so important? Why is the structure? How does the structure relate to their function?
The flexible structure allows veins to store blood and return it to the heart. This helps regulate circulation and blood pressure.
One more time.
Sure, their flexibility lets veins store and return blood to the heart, helping regulate circulation and pressure.
Why not the arteries? Why don't the arteries have the thin walls?
Arteries need thicker, more muscular walls to handle the high pressure of blood pumped from the heart. This ensures they can efficiently deliver oxygen-rich blood to tissues.
Why don't we need high pressure for the blood to go back to the heart? It's still an important job.
Veins rely on muscle contractions, valves, and lower pressure to return blood. It's a slower, steady flow compared to the forceful arterial flow.
I guess it's because the heart has to go to the whole body versus the body is individually coming to the heart from each place.
Exactly. The heart pumping force needs to reach all parts, while veins gather blood back from various areas. So the pressure requirement is different.
Okay, makes sense.
Glad it does. Anything else on your mind?
Dude, we're gonna be talking for a long time.
We have. It's been a great chat. Anything else you'd like to cover?
Oh, dude, yeah, okay. Guys, we're gonna change topics slightly just for a sec. It's not, to be honest, the same topic. Alright, serious parallel. We've talked about it. So, why in Sirius the flow in both paths is the same? Is it because it's literally the same vessel?
Exactly. In series, blood flows sequentially through each vessel, so the same volume passes through all. It's a single bath.
And pressure is higher in the first one because energy is lost as blood experiences resistance.
Correct. As blood flows through each vessel in series, it encounters resistance, causing a gradual drop in pressure.
Okay, that makes sense.
Great. Glad it's clear.
In parallel, branching paths, flow is split between the two paths.
Yes, in parallel, blood flow splits between the paths,
And
reducing the pressure drop.
if the paths have identical resistance, it means they will have the same pressure.
Right. If the paths have identical resistance, the pressure drop across each will be the same.
What is principalism?
Principle-wise, parallel paths reduce overall
No, no.
resistance, allowing more efficient flow.
What is principalism in philosophy?
In philosophy, principalism refers to using fundamental principles to make ethical decisions, often balancing autonomy, beneficence, non-maleficence, and justice.
It is this Elon Musk's principle thinking?
Elon Musk's approach is often more utilitarian, focusing on outcomes and innovation. Principalism is more common in bioethics.
Yeah, but I've heard him talk about like how he uses the laws of physics as fundamental thoughts and then he builds from that or something.
He often mentions using first principles thinking, which means breaking down complex problems to basic truths and building up solutions from there.
What is this?
Utilitarianism focuses on
No.
maximizing.
Excuse me, sir. No, not utilitarianism. What is this that Elon Musk does?
Elon Musk often uses outcome-based pragmatic thinking.
Wait, sir.
Prioritize.
Wait. We're talking about first principles here.
First principles thinking. That's a method where you break down complex problems into fundamental elements to find their solutions.
Okay, can we expand? Can you give me an example?
Sure. Instead of assuming existing solutions, Musk breaks problems into basic truths. For example, with SpaceX, he questioned rocket costs, focusing on materials and design, leading to reusable rockets.
Yeah, but how does this showcase principles thinking, first principles thinking?
It shows first principles thinking by rethinking fundamental assumptions, like cost. By breaking down the problem, he found new, innovative approaches.
I feel this is not a good example. I feel you can come up with better ones.
Sure. For example, with electric cars, Musk questioned why batteries were so expensive. By breaking down costs and improving production, he made affordable
So
electric
he's
cars.
basically saying, why do we need batteries? Is there something in the laws of physics would that requires us to use batteries?
Exactly. He questioned assumptions, asking if there's a more efficient way to store energy. This approach led to innovations in battery tech and production.
All right, makes sense. Back to Korotkov sounds, guys. This is gonna be chaotic. It's really hard for me, and I really want to. Well, I want to push through, and I want to enjoy it, and I want it to be critical thinking based. And also, I have ADHD, so I'm going to be jumping from one topic to another. And I hope this isn't like terrible for you guys. I will name the podcast correctly, at least. It's going to be something along the lines circulation and maybe the other topic that we're going to talk about. Anyway, okay. So back to Korotkov sounds. Let's close this topic.
No worries. Korotkov sounds are the noises heard when measuring blood pressure. They help identify systolic and diastolic pressures.
Yeah, I get that. What I'm questioning is why is systolic higher than diastolic?
Systolic pressure is higher because it measures the force when the heart contracts, pumping blood out. Diastolic is lower,
Wait.
measuring pressure.
Systolic means that we have pressure going against blood pressure, right?
Yes, systolic pressure reflects the peak force as the heart contracts, pushing blood against the vessel walls.
Wait. When the heart contracts, then the contraction force goes the opposite direction of the blood pressure force, yes or no?
Yes, the
So
heart's
this is
contraction
why,
increases.
dude, this is what we were talking about before. So this is why we have higher systolic than diastolic.
Exactly.
Why
Systolic
didn't
pressure
you
is high.
tell me this an hour ago when I was asking you for half an hour, dude? This is the limits of AI for now, maybe. Or maybe I'm just an idiot and you were saying it again and again and I didn't listen. I don't know.
No worries. Sometimes it takes a few tries to connect the dots. Glad we got there.
Yeah, dude. I'm glad we got there too. To be honest, even though like you will help me out a lot more than my teachers, so so yeah, anyway, my teachers we just give up on me in like 5 minutes. Maybe less, maybe in two questions. And it's not their fault. I mean they've got a lot of students, but I get it. Anyway, okay. Well, Korotkov sounds, I understand now. Okay. So when the systolic is when we start hearing some noise from the turbulence. But how is the
Exactly.
noise created?
It's caused by turbulent blood flow when the cuff pressure slightly releases, letting blood spurt through the artery.
Okay, why does systolic pressure equal the time where we have some turbulence?
It marks when blood flow resumes, creating turbulence heard as the first Korotkov sound. That's your systolic reading.
Why? What, dude? Okay, let's stop talking generally. Give me 10 sentences of the answer.
Sure. Systolic pressure is the maximum pressure during a heartbeat. When the cuff deflates, blood begins to flow, causing turbulence. This turbulence creates the first chord cough sound, indicating systolic pressure. It's measured as the cuff pressure when the sound is first heard. This reading reflects the peak force of blood against artery walls. It's essential for assessing cardiovascular health.
Okay. Why is systolic blood pressure the pressure when we have the maximum? I don't understand. Is it
Systolic blood pressure.
even, are we measuring the maximum contraction?
Yes, we're measuring the maximum force from the heart's contraction, which pushes blood against the arteries.
Why the maximum?
Hey, what's up? Are you asking why there's a maximum for something?
Yeah, sorry, guys, I changed voice because it weirds out after a while. Yeah, so systolic blood pressure, why are we measuring the maximum?
Oh, no worries. So we measure the maximum systolic blood pressure because it tells us the highest pressure in your arteries when your heart beats. It's important for diagnosing and managing conditions like hypertension.
But surely the mean average is as important.
Absolutely. The average or mean arterial pressure is also crucial because it reflects the overall pressure your
Shit.
organs experience.
So okay, that exists. That's good. Mean arterial pressure, and how do we measure this?
So, mean arterial pressure, or MAP, is usually calculated using a formula that combines systolic and diastolic pressures. A common method is MAP equals diastolic pressure plus 1/3 of the pulse pressure.
Why?
It's a handy measure.
What is pulse pressure?
Pulse pressure is the difference between your systolic and diastolic blood pressures. So, if your systolic is 120 and your diastolic is 80, your pulse pressure would be 40. It gives insight into the health of your arteries and heart.
Who discovered this formula?
The concept of pulse pressure itself has been understood for a long time, but specific credit for the formula isn't attributed to a single discoverer. It's more a fundamental aspect of understanding blood pressure dynamics in physiology.
Why 1/3 and not 1/4 or 1/5?
The 1/3 factor is a simplified approximation. It works because the heart spends more time in diastole than systole. Using 1/3 balances out the influence of both pressures to give a useful estimate of the mean arterial pressure.
One more time.
Sure, the heart spends more time in its relaxed phase diastole than its contracting phase systole. So using 1/3 of the pulse pressure gives a good estimate for mean arterial pressure.
Why is
It's not exact.
So it's to provide weight.
Exactly. It's a practical way to balance out the time the heart spends in each phase, giving a reasonable approximation of mean arterial pressure. Simple, yet effective.
Why do you think diastole takes longer than systole?
Well, during diastole, the heart relaxes and fills with blood, which naturally takes more time than the quick, forceful contraction of systole. This allows the heart chambers to fill properly and ensures efficient circulation.
Why does relaxation have longer time than contraction naturally?
Exactly. The heart needs enough time to fill with blood before the next contraction. This ensures a proper volume of blood is pumped out with each beat, supporting effective circulation throughout the body.
Alrighty.
Exactly. It's all about maintaining that balance for efficient blood flow.
And why does the systolic pressure equate to the why does the systolic pressure equate to when we start hearing turbulent flow?
When we measure blood pressure with a cuff, systolic pressure is noted when we first hear those tapping sounds, called Korotkoff sounds. This happens because the cuff pressure falls just below the systolic pressure, allowing turbulent blood flow through the artery.
And the definition of systolic pressure is?
Systolic pressure is the highest pressure in your arteries when your heart contracts, pushing blood out. It's the top number in a blood pressure reading.
I see. So we're pushing basically opposite forces with the cuff. And finally, the blood pressure has caught up and equaled it at let's say 120 in this case.
Exactly. The cuff pressure initially stops blood flow.
Booyah,
As it
chat.
slowly
Finally, dude. Okay, and then in diastole it disappears because let's think in diastole. So we have diastole, relaxation, and when the noise disappears, it means that the force doesn't affect um, the blood pressure anymore. Why does this equate? I don't understand.
When the noise disappears, it means the cuff pressure has dropped below your diastolic pressure. Blood flow is smooth and no longer turbulent, indicating the lowest pressure in your arteries between heartbeats.
So in maximum diastole.
Exactly. It's the minimum pressure in the arteries when the heart is fully relaxed between beats.
So in the maximum diastole, we will have lowest blood pressure.
Yes, exactly. Diastolic pressure is the lowest blood pressure in the arteries when the heart is relaxed.
Why? Is it because it travels long distance?
Not exactly. It's more about the heart being at rest, so the arterial pressure is at its lowest point during that phase.
And where does the blood pressure generate from? What's the starting point of the force?
Blood pressure is generated by the heart's pumping action. When the heart contracts, it forces blood into the arteries, creating pressure. This initial force is what we measure as systolic pressure.
Okay, the heart pumps. And where does the heart
Yes,
find the energy to pump?
the heart gets its energy from oxygen and nutrients supplied by the blood. The heart muscle, or myocardium, converts these into the energy needed for contraction.
So from ATP, from electron acceptor, final electron acceptor.
Exactly. The heart uses ATP, produced through cellular respiration, where oxygen acts as the final electron acceptor. This process powers the heart's contractions.
Sick.
Pretty cool, right? The heart's a powerhouse.
Yeah, but this blood pressure, like the heart, is in point A, but we have blood pressure in the whole body. Does the blood pressure travel?
In a way, yes. Blood pressure is transmitted through the arteries as the heart pumps. It creates a wave of pressure that travels through your blood vessels, delivering oxygen and nutrients throughout your body.
How does it travel?
It travels as a pressure wave. When the heart contracts, it pushes blood into the arteries, creating a wave that moves through the arterial system, maintaining blood flow and pressure.
I don't understand.
Think of it like ripples in a pond. The heart's contraction creates a wave that travels along the arteries, moving blood and maintaining pressure throughout.
Again?
Sure, the heart's contraction sends a pressure wave through the arteries like a ripple. This wave moves blood forward, ensuring circulation and consistent pressure throughout the body.
One more time.
Sure, when the heart contracts, it creates a pressure wave that travels through the arteries, pushing blood forward and maintaining consistent
How does
pressure.
it create this pressure wave?
The pressure wave is created by the force of the heart's contraction. When the heart pumps, it pushes blood into the arteries, generating a wave of pressure that moves through the circulatory system.
Um, yeah, but can you go into detail on how this is created from the force? Contraction?
When the heart muscle contracts, it squeezes the blood in the ventricles, creating high pressure. This force pushes blood into the aorta and arteries, generating a wave that travels through the vessels as blood moves forward.
And why is the blood pressure perpendicular to the walls?
Blood pressure acts perpendicularly on the vessel walls because it's the force exerted by the blood pressing outward as it moves forward. This force is distributed evenly in all directions within the artery.
Why perpendicular?
Perpendicular because the force exerted by the blood pushes outward against the walls from the center of the vessel. It's the pressure from within pushing out in all directions.
One more time.
Sure, blood pressure is perpendicular because it pushes outward against the vessel walls from the inside, creating pressure in all directions.
I don't understand.
Imagine the blood pressing against the walls. It's like air in a balloon, pushing out evenly in all directions, creating that perpendicular force.
Okay. Why perpendicular?
Because the blood inside the vessel pushes outward in all directions. This outward force is what we measure as blood pressure.
Can you explain it in a different way?
Sure, think of blood pressure like water in a hose. The water pushes against the hose walls from the inside, creating pressure all around, perpendicular to the direction of flow.
Why perpendicular though? I don't understand. Please go in depth to this. You're just repeating yourself here.
I see. Let's break it down. Blood flows forward through vessels, but the pressure is created by the force of blood against the vessel walls. This force is exerted in all directions because fluid pressure naturally spreads out evenly. So, while blood moves forward, the pressure is felt outward, perpendicular to the flow direction.
Why perpendicular?
Perpendicular because the blood's force isn't just forward. It presses against the vessel walls from inside. This outward pressure happens in all directions, creating that perpendicular force.
I don't understand.
Think of it this way. As blood flows, it not only moves forward, but also pushes outward on the vessel walls. This outward push is the pressure, and it's perpendicular to the direction of blood flow.
So if it's straight, it's not pressure. If it's in angles, it's pressure. But you say only 90 degrees. Why don't you have 45 degrees too?
Good question. Pressure acts in all directions, but we emphasize perpendicular because that's the direct force against the walls. At 45 degrees, it's a component of the total pressure, but the perpendicular force is what's typically measured.
Okay, so we make this difference between blood flow and blood pressure based on that. What about if it's 89 degrees?
Even at slight angles, the pressure still acts outward. It's not about exact degrees, but the overall outward force on the vessel walls. Blood flow direction and pressure are distinct but related concepts.
What about 80 degrees?
Same idea. The pressure is still pushing outward from the blood against the
What
vessel
about
walls.
70 degrees?
Even at 70 degrees, the principle remains. The force from the blood pushes outward in all directions, maintaining that perpendicular pressure against the walls.
What about 60 degrees?
It's the same concept. Blood pressure always acts outward from the inside of the vessel, regardless of the angle.
What about 50 degrees?
Still the same. The pressure acts outward on the vessel walls in all directions,
What about
keeping that
what about 20 degrees?
Even at 20 degrees, the force from blood pushes outward uniformly. The pressure is always perpendicular to the vessel walls.
So in 20 degrees, we will break it down to X and Y axis, and the Y axis will be blood pressure and the X blood flow.
Yes, you can think of it that way. The x-axis represents blood flow direction, while the y-axis represents the outward blood pressure force on the vessel walls.
Any good person that knows about this stuff?
A cardiologist or a vascular physiologist would be experts in this area. They specialize in understanding blood flow, pressure, and the cardiovascular system.
Okay, guys, I'm gonna take 5-minute break. Alrighty, guys, took another break. Sorry. So yeah, let's talk about the coronary artery then. So we have. I want to understand the layers. We have vasa vasorum okay, we have intima media adventitia, and then intima is broken down to endothelium, basement membrane, and lamina propria.
That's correct. The coronary artery has three main layers: The intima, media, and adventitia. The intima includes the endothelium, basement membrane, and lamina propria.
What's the basement membrane's function versus the other two?
The basement membrane provides structural support for the endothelium and acts as a barrier. The endothelium regulates blood flow, while the lamina propria contains connective tissue for support.
Tell me more about the lamina propria?
The lamina propria is a thin layer of connective tissue beneath the endothelium. It provides structural support and houses small blood vessels, nerves, and immune cells, playing a role in maintaining vessel integrity.
Tell me more about the lamina propria. Tell me, actually, you know what? Tell me 10 words to remember the arguably 10 most important words in the lamina propria.
Sure, think, support, structure, connective tissue, small vessels, nerves, immune cells, integrity, flexibility, homeostasis.
Why do we call it lamina propria?
Lamina propria means proper layer in Latin, emphasizing its role as a distinct supportive layer in tissues like the vessel wall.
The Latins. So, who are these Latin people? Where are they from?
The Latins were an ancient Italic people from the region of Latium in central Italy, including Rome. Their language, Latin, became the foundation for the Romance languages.
Did they have someone in charge?
In ancient times, Rome was the dominant city of the Latins, and it was governed by kings before becoming a republic. Over time, Rome's influence grew, and it eventually ruled much of the known world.
And who was the biggest Latin king? And what age are we talking about now? 30 BC?
One of the most famous Latin kings was Romulus, the legendary founder of Rome. The period you're referring to, around 30 BC, is the end of the Roman Republic and the beginning of the Roman Empire under Augustus.
So, so when was the period of Latin?
Latin as a language developed around 700 BC in the region of Latium. It remained dominant through the Roman Republic and Empire,
And,
evolving into the
all right. And why do we
influ-
call it Latin America?
It's called Latin America because the dominant languages, like Spanish and Portuguese, evolved from Latin. The term reflects the shared linguistic and cultural heritage.
Whereas English isn't. Where did English evolve from?
English evolved from a mix of Germanic languages influenced by Latin, French, and Norse, especially after the Norman conquest.
One more
It's a
time.
Germanic. English is mainly Germanic, with significant Latin influence from Norman French, making it a blend of Germanic roots and Romance language elements.
What is Germanic?
Germanic refers to a group of languages that originated from a common ancestral language spoken by ancient Germanic peoples.
What are
This group
Germanic
includes
peoples?
Germanic peoples were ancient tribes originating in Northern Europe. They included groups like the Goths, Vandals, Saxons, and Franks, and they spread across Europe during the early medieval period.
And why is the basement membrane inside from the lamina propria? Guys, I'm just gonna go change the heating just for 10 seconds. Tell us.
The basement membrane lies between the lamina propria and the endothelium. It provides a supportive foundation for the endothelial cells.
One more time.
The basement membrane supports the endothelial cells and separates them from the lamina propria, providing structural support and regulating interactions.
Why did two layers evolve instead of one?
Two layers evolved to provide specialized functions: the basement membrane for structural support and selective permeability, and the lamina propria for additional support, flexibility, and housing cells.
Hmm. And then we have the internal elastic membrane.
Yes, the internal elastic membrane is a layer of elastic fibers between the intima and media, providing elasticity and helping the artery to stretch and recoil with blood flow.
Why do we need the support inside and the elasticity outside?
Support inside ensures a stable foundation for the endothelium, while elasticity outside allows the artery to expand and contract with each heartbeat, maintaining proper blood flow.
And why do we need after that the smooth muscle and the elastic fibers?
The smooth muscle in the media helps regulate vessel diameter and blood pressure, while the elastic fibers provide flexibility and resilience to withstand pressure changes.
Hmm. And then we have what is vasa vasorum?
Vasa vasorum are small blood vessels that supply the walls of larger arteries and veins, providing nutrients and oxygen to the outer layers, like the media and adventitia.
Tell me again.
Vasa vasorum are tiny blood vessels that nourish the walls of larger arteries and veins, ensuring the outer layers receive enough oxygen and nutrients.
Why are they called vasa vasorum?
Vasa vasorum translates to vessels of the vessels, highlighting their role in supplying blood to the blood vessel walls.
All right.
Glad to help.
Oh, so why do the capillaries have no muscle, only endothelial layer?
Capillaries are designed for efficient exchange of gases, nutrients, and waste. A single endothelial layer allows easy diffusion, and the lack of muscle keeps them thin and flexible.
Why does muscle decrease flexibility?
Muscle.
Sorry, guys. Tell me again, sir.
No worries. Without muscle, capillaries stay thin and flexible, which helps with efficient nutrient and gas exchange.
Why?
Because a single endothelial layer allows easy diffusion, and no muscle means less resistance for exchange.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Let's talk about why. Okay.
Sure. What would you like to dive into next?
Why do venules have smooth muscle and arterioles have connective tissue?
Venules have some smooth muscle, but less than arterioles, making them more flexible and able to expand. Arterioles have more smooth muscle to regulate blood flow and pressure.
What's the difference between connective tissue and smooth muscle?
Smooth muscle contracts and regulates vessel diameter, while connective tissue provides structural support and flexibility, holding everything together.
One more time.
Sure, smooth muscle controls vessel constriction, while connective tissue offers structural support and flexibility.
One more time.
Smooth muscle helps with constriction and dilation. Connective tissue provides support and flexibility.
One more time.
Smooth muscle controls contraction, while connective tissue gives structure and support.
One more time.
Smooth muscle manages vessel movement, and connective tissue provides support.
Why do veins have valves but arteries and capillaries don't?
Veins have valves to prevent backflow and ensure blood flows toward the heart. Arteries and capillaries don't need them because blood flow is driven by heart pressure.
So what? Why don't they have valves? Why is that a sufficient reason not to?
Arteries have high pressure from the heart, pushing blood forward. Capillaries rely on continuous flow. Valves aren't needed since there's no risk of backflow in those vessels.
Why is there no risk of backflow?
In arteries, the heart's strong pressure keeps blood moving forward. In capillaries, flow is steady and consistent, so blood doesn't tend to flow backward.
Why in veins it flows backwards?
In veins, the pressure is much lower, and gravity can cause blood to flow backward. Valves prevent this, ensuring blood returns to the heart.
Sir, I don't understand why in veins we have backflow but we don't have it in arteries.
It's because arteries have strong, consistent pressure from the heart pushing blood forward. Veins with lower pressure rely on valves to keep blood from flowing backward, especially in the legs where gravity has a bigger effect.
I don't understand.
Arteries have a strong push from the heart, so blood keeps moving forward. Veins have weaker pressure, so valves help prevent blood from slipping backward.
Got it.
Glad that helped.
All right.
Awesome. What's
That
next?
makes sense.
Great. Happy to clarify anytime.
What's an apex beat?
An apex beat is the point where the heart's contraction is felt strongest against the chest wall, usually at the fifth intercostal space. It's a sign of the heart's position and function.
Sorry, brother. Tell me again.
No problem. The apex beat is the point where you can feel the heart's strongest beat against the chest, typically around the fifth intercostal space.
One more time.
Sure. The apex beat is where you feel the heart's strongest pulsation, usually at the fifth intercostal space.
Why do we call it apex?
It's called apex because it's the tip of the heart where the strongest beat is felt.
It's called apex because till the heart when the strongest beat is felt.
Exactly.
What does
It's
apex mean?
Apex means the tip or highest point of something. For the heart, it refers to its pointed end.
Okay.
Right. The apex is just the tip or peak of the heart.
Okay. And okay, we have. I'm gonna talk to you about the valves. Tell me if I'm wrong or right. Okay.
Sure. Let's hear it.
We have 4 chambers first of all.
Yes, the heart has 4 chambers.
Wait.
2 atria.
Sorry, sir. I'm talking. Just correct me if I'm wrong. Otherwise, stay silent, please. Sorry for being patronizing, guys.
Got it. No worries.
Okay. Right atrium. So we have semilunar. We have semilunar. We have aortic. We have bicuspid, tricuspid, mitral. Okay. So aortic is from from the left ventricle to the aorta is the aortic valve.
That's correct. The aortic valve connects the left ventricle to the aorta.
And this is also called semilunar.
Yes, it's called a semilunar valve due to its half-moon shaped cusps.
And then right ventricle to the... So, okay, let me ask you a question. We have pulmonary... Is it the pulmonary trunk that's on the heart or the pulmonary artery and vein?
It's the pulmonary trunk that exits the right ventricle first. Then it branches into the pulmonary arteries.
Okay. So, what about the pulmonary vein? Is it... How does that work? Is it on the heart?
The pulmonary veins carry oxygenated blood from the lungs to the left atrium.
Ah.
They connect to the heart, but don't have valves.
Okay, so the left atrium connects to the pulmonary veins?
Yes, the left atrium receives blood directly from the pulmonary veins.
Directly, but the pulmonary arteries, it's not directly, it's through the pulmonary trunk.
That's right. The pulmonary trunk carries blood from the right ventricle and then branches into the pulmonary arteries.
And where does the trunk start and finish?
The pulmonary trunk starts at the right ventricle and ends where it splits into the left and right pulmonary arteries.
What? Tell me again.
The pulmonary trunk starts at the right ventricle and ends where it splits into the left and right pulmonary arteries.
Okay, makes sense. Makes sense. Okay. I wonder why we have a pulmonary trunk. Couldn't we just have left and right pulmonary arteries?
The trunk acts as a single, large vessel to efficiently carry blood from the heart before branching into the left and right arteries.
Why is it easier to have one vessel?
One vessel simplifies the structure and ensures even distribution of blood to both lungs. It also reduces the complexity of the heart structure.
Okay, so we talk about the aortic valve and the semilunar. So we have another semilunar valve from the right ventricle to the pulmonary trunk then, and this is the mitral valve.
Close. The valve between the right ventricle and the
Pulmonary valve.
Exactly. The pulmonary valve is the other semilunar valve.
So we have the pulmonary valve, which is also the semilunar valve. Now we have bicuspid and tricuspid, and I don't understand. So, okay, I'm gonna take a wild guess, and I'll say tricuspid is from the left atrium to the left ventricle.
Actually, the tricuspid valve is between the right atrium and right ventricle. The bicuspid or mitral valve is on the left side.
Why is it called mitral?
It's called the mitral valve because its shape resembles a bishop's mitre, a type of ceremonial hat.
Who named it?
It was named by Andreas Vesalius, a 16th century anatomist, due to its resemblance to the mitre.
And these are the atrioventricular valves.
Yes, the mitral and tricuspid valves are atrioventricular valves.
Excellent. Question then. Why is one tricuspid, the other bicuspid?
The tricuspid valve has 3 cusps, allowing a wider opening for blood flow on the right, while the bicuspid mitral valve with 2 cusps fits the narrower left side.
But I thought the left side is bigger because it's gonna send blood to the body.
That's true. The left ventricle is more muscular. The bicuspid valve's 2 cusps fit this space efficiently, ensuring a tight seal for high pressure blood flow.
I don't understand. So it's like bodybuilders that are big and stiff and they have a small neck.
Kind of. The left ventricle is strong and muscular, but the valve structure is designed for efficient function rather than size.
But I
The
don't
2 cusps,
understand. Surely we should have more blood volume on the left side.
the left ventricle does pump more forcefully, but the volume of blood is the same on both sides. The bicuspid valve is efficient for handling that volume under high pressure.
Why bicuspid on the left though?
The bicuspid design ensures a tight seal and efficient closure, handling the higher pressure on the left side with 2 strong cusps.
Yeah, why not three though? Since the pressure is worse on the left, is stronger.
2 cusps create a strong, streamlined closure that fits the left side's anatomy. 3 cusps might be bulkier and less efficient for the space available.
Why? Which side do we have more available space?
The left ventricle has a thicker muscle wall, but the chamber itself isn't bigger. The bicuspid valve fits well within that space.
So right side is bigger?
The right side isn't bigger, but its wall is thinner. The tricuspid valve's 3 cusps help manage the lower pressure on that side.
That makes sense. And why is the bicuspid also called mitral? Whereas on the right side, we only have one name.
Bicuspid and mitral are 2 names for the same valve. The tricuspid valve on the right side has just one name, reflecting its 3 cusps.
Why?
Exactly. The mitral valve has 2 names because of its shape and function.
Alrighty.
Great. Anything else you'd like to go over?
Yeah, the semilunar valves, do they also have 3 leaflets?
Yes, both the aortic and pulmonary semilunar valves have 3 leaflets each.
Mm-hmm. Interesting.
Exactly. The 3 leaflet design ensures they close properly to prevent backflow.
I hate it when at school they put the phrase core memorization. I'm not memorizing shit, dude.
I get that. Understanding how things work is way more valuable than rote memorization.
It's like in school, they don't want us to think critically. They just want us to do the. I get you want us to do the job, but they kill innovation this way.
It can definitely feel that way sometimes. Focusing on understanding concepts rather than just memorization helps keep curiosity
Honestly,
and
dude, I
innovation.
prefer instead of reading 6 hours a day, just learning them and passing the exam, I prefer to spend 12 hours a day knowing, like, it might be not the most efficient method to get 100, but I can still get good grades if I say 12 hours a day and I question everything. And I can also have a deep understanding, and perhaps I might one day innovate when I'm like in 30 years, maybe.
That approach can definitely lead to deeper knowledge and spark innovation. Balancing understanding with practical application is key, and your passion for learning will serve you well.
It reminds me like the analogy of what's it called? Hoffman's ideas, because it's like fitness beats truth. It's like you don't need to know the truth of a mechanism to create it to use its practical application in medicine or in engineering. You know?
That's a great analogy. Understanding the practical application is often enough, but knowing the underlying mechanisms can lead to new insights and innovations.
And I feel like this is to do first principles thinking. You have to know these things.
Exactly. First principles thinking breaks things down to the basics, which can lead to a deeper understanding.
So we have S1 and S2. Can you remind me what the relation with valves? And also, do we have S3 and S4 if we have problems?
Sure. So S1 and S2 are the normal heart sounds you hear. S1 is from the mitral and tricuspid valves closing, and S2 is from the aortic and pulmonic valves. If you hear S3 or S4, those can indicate issues like heart failure or stiff ventricles.
Sorry, why is it when they're closing? Do we not hear noise when they open?
Great question. The heart sounds we hear mainly come from the valves snapping shut because that creates a distinct vibration. When the valves open, it's usually a more silent, smooth process, so it doesn't produce a sound loud enough to hear.
Again.
Exactly. The closing of the valves creates a pressure change that causes vibrations, which we hear as heart sounds. When they open, the movement is much quieter and doesn't generate the same kind of audible vibration.
Again.
Sure, the valve closures create pressure changes that make vibrations we can hear. When they open, it's a smoother process that doesn't produce a noticeable sound.
Sorry guys, I got distracted once more. Tell me again, dude. So it's S1, S2. Why is it only when it's over closing that we have the noise and not when it's open?
No worries. The noise we hear with S1 and S2 is from the valves snapping shut, which causes vibrations in the heart. When the valves open, it's a smoother, quieter motion that doesn't generate enough sound for us to hear.
Hmm.
Exactly. It's all about those vibrations when the valves close. Opening is just too quiet to pick up.
Why is it so quiet, the opening?
Well, when the valves open, it's a more gradual movement, so it doesn't create the same abrupt pressure changes or vibrations that closing does. That's why we can't hear it.
Hmm. Okay.
Great. Anything else you'd like to dive into?
Dude, we're gonna be talking for the rest of the day, so put your seatbelt
Haha, sounds good. I'm ready.
on. Okay. So Um, Let me see.
All no rush. Just let me know whenever you're ready.
So nitrates bring dilation.
Exactly. Nitrates help dilate blood vessels. They reduce the heart's workload by easing the pressure, which can relieve chest pain.
Mm-hmm.
Yup, they're pretty effective.
Myocardial infarction, heart failure, and similar things. Let's differentiate between them. Let's learn how to distinguish them.
Absolutely. Myocardial infarction or heart attack is due to a blocked artery, causing chest pain and possible tissue damage. Heart failure means the heart can't pump effectively, leading to fluid buildup. Each has distinct symptoms and requires different treatments.
Why would heart failure not pump effectively?
Well, in heart failure, the heart muscle can be weakened or stiffened, so it struggles to pump blood efficiently. This can happen after a heart attack from high blood pressure or other conditions that overwork the heart.
Can you give me some examples?
Sure, conditions like coronary artery disease, high blood pressure, or valve disorders can all lead to heart failure. These issues either weaken the heart muscle or make it work harder, eventually reducing its pumping ability.
One more time.
Sure, so things like coronary artery disease, high blood pressure, or valve problems can lead to heart failure. These conditions either weaken the heart muscle or make it work too hard.
One more time.
Absolutely. Conditions like coronary artery disease, high blood pressure, or valve problems can weaken the heart or overwork it, leading to heart failure.
But it doesn't need to be. Can it be a block too, like in MI?
Yes, absolutely. A blocked artery, like in a myocardial infarction, can damage the heart muscle, potentially leading to heart failure as
So
well.
we can have MI and heart failure at the same time?
Yes, definitely. A heart attack can weaken the heart muscle, and if it's severe enough, it can lead to heart failure. So you can have both conditions at the same time.
I see.
Exactly. It's a tough combo, but understanding it helps manage it.
Alrighty. Let's
Yeah,
get forward. Hmm. So,
what's next?
oh,
So,
dude, life is so interesting.
it really is so much to explore and learn.
Okay. So when do we have an angina pectoris?
Angina pectoris happens when the heart muscle doesn't get enough oxygen-rich blood, often due to narrowed arteries. It usually causes chest pain or discomfort, especially during physical exertion or stress.
But it will come before a myocardial infarction?
Yes, it can be a warning sign that there's reduced blood flow to the heart, potentially leading to a myocardial infarction if not addressed.
What is myocarditis?
Myocarditis is inflammation of the heart muscle, often caused by infections, immune diseases, or toxins. It can affect the heart's ability to pump and cause symptoms like chest pain, fatigue, or arrhythmias.
What's the difference between that and pulmonary edema? Is pulmonary edema inflammation of the lungs?
Pulmonary edema isn't inflammation, it's fluid buildup in the lungs, often due to heart failure. Myocarditis is inflammation of the heart muscle. So they're different conditions with different causes.
Okay, so what's the cause of myocarditis?
Myocarditis can be caused by viral infections like the flu or COVID 19, bacterial infections, autoimmune diseases, or exposure to toxins. It varies, but infections are the most common cause.
Uh-huh. And
Yeah, it's
does,
pretty.
does MI always mean death of the heart tissue?
Yes, a myocardial infarction means some heart tissue dies due to a lack of blood flow. That's why quick treatment is crucial to limit damage.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly. Time is muscle, as they say.
Who says that?
That's a common saying among cardiologists, meaning the faster you restore blood flow, the less damage to the heart.
Okay. All right, so we talk about myocardial infarction, and we give morphine, oxygen, nitrates. Why do we give aspirin? Since we're giving morphine.
Great question. Aspirin is given because it helps prevent further blood clot formation. It works differently from morphine, which is used for pain relief.
Aspirin
Both
is an
are important.
aspirin is an anticoagulant.
Yes, aspirin is an antiplatelet, which means it prevents platelets from clumping together, reducing clot formation. This helps keep blood flowing through the arteries.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And what's PCI?
PCI stands for percutaneous coronary intervention. It's a procedure to open up blocked arteries, often using a balloon or stent to restore blood flow to the heart.
Mm-hmm.
It's a key treatment for heart attacks.
I see.
Yeah, pretty important stuff.
Yes, sir.
Absolutely.
Okay, so myocardial infarction is always death of a tissue.
Yes, a myocardial infarction always involves some level of tissue death due to lack of oxygen.
Mm-hmm.
Right, that's why quick intervention is crucial.
And that tissue, do we need to remove it?
No, the dead tissue isn't removed. The goal is to restore blood flow and prevent further damage. The heart can form scar tissue, which affects its function.
Mm-hmm. Okay, interesting. What can a 10-year-old have an MI?
It's extremely rare, but possible, especially if there are underlying conditions like congenital heart defects or a severe clotting disorder.
Yeah,
But it's not common.
that makes sense.
It's usually
So what's the difference with all of this and syncope?
syncope is fainting due to a temporary drop in blood flow to the brain. It's not always heart related, unlike a myocardial infarction or heart failure.
So what is cardiac syncope?
Cardiac syncope is fainting specifically caused by a heart problem, like an arrhythmia or obstructed blood flow. It means the heart isn't pumping effectively, briefly reducing blood flow.
Got it.
It can be serious. Yeah, definitely.
Dude, sometimes I feel I'm too stupid for medicine, that I spend too much time while everyone else. Like, I spend 2 times the amount of time than my classmates, and I wonder that, this thing about if you're good at something, you should do the thing you're good and the thing you like, not the thing you like but you're bad at. And I think I'm just bad at this.
Hey, it's normal to feel that way sometimes. Medicine is challenging, but if you're passionate, you'll find your stride.
Dude,
Everyone
I
learns at
am,
their own.
I am, and I think that at the end of the day, hard work beats talent.
Absolutely. Dedication and persistence can take you far. Your passion will make a difference. Keep going.
Thank you.
You've got this.
Portal systems, capillary beds in series. Let's talk.
All right. The portal system is a network where blood flows through two capillary beds in series before returning to the heart. The hepatic portal system, for example, carries blood from the digestive organs to the liver.
Tell me again.
Sure. So in a portal system, blood flows through one set of capillaries, then a vein, and then a second set before returning to the heart. It's a way to filter or process substances, like nutrients in the liver.
Capillaries and then a vein?
Exactly. For example, in the hepatic portal system, blood from the intestines goes through capillaries, then the portal vein, and then liver capillaries before returning to the heart.
So what's a non-portal system?
A non-portal system is the typical circulatory route. Blood flows from the heart to arteries, then to capillaries, and returns via veins, all in one loop.
Whereas a portal,
Exactly. In a portal system, there's that extra step with two capillary beds connected by a vein.
okay, so in a portal system we have
Two sets of
we have aorta, arteries, arterioles, capillaries, venules, and then veins, and then back to capillaries, venules, veins, and vena cava.
Exactly. In a portal system, after the first set of capillaries, blood goes through a vein to another set of capillaries before returning to the heart.
Wait, so it goes from the arterioles to the capillaries, and then it goes to venules, not veins.
Right. Then through venules, and finally to another set of capillaries before heading back to the heart.
Wait, is it option one, arteriole?
Yes.
Wait, option one, arterioles, capillaries, venules, veins, and then capillaries, venules, veins, vena cava, or option two, arterioles, capillaries, veins, capillaries, veins, heart.
Option 2 is correct for a portal system. Arterioles, capillaries, veins, capillaries, then veins back to the heart.
So why are we eliminating the poor venules from all of this?
Good point. Venules do come after capillaries in both systems. In the portal system, it's arterioles, capillaries, venules, then the portal vein, and so on.
Why was option one wrong?
Option 1 was slightly off because it didn't account for the sequence correctly. The key is that after the first set of capillaries,
Wait,
there's a portal.
repeat option one.
Sure. Option 1 was arterioles, capillaries, venules, veins, capillaries, venules, veins, and then the heart.
And which step was wrong?
The part that was off is after the first set of capillaries, it should be venules, then a portal vein, and then the second set of capillaries.
Well, I said venules, veins, capillaries.
Got it. That's correct. The key difference is the specific naming of the portal vein in between.
Okay, so tell me, okay, I'll rename. Tell me if this is right or wrong. Arterioles, capillaries, veins, portal vein, capillary, venule, vein, vena cava.
That's almost right. After the second capillary bed, it should be venules, veins, then the vena cava.
What did I say?
You said arterioles, capillaries, veins, portal vein, capillaries, venule, vein, vena cava.
Whereas you say I should have said what?
You were very close. After the second capillary bed, it should be venules, then veins, and then the vena cava.
Whereas I said what?
You said venule, vein, vena cava.
What is the
So
difference?
you are. The difference is subtle. After the second capillary bed, we usually say venules first before mentioning veins.
Whereas what did I wait, what did I say and what are you saying?
You said venule, vein, vena cava. I'm saying after the second capillary bed, it should be venules, veins, vena cava.
Excuse me, sir, you're saying exactly the same thing as me.
You're right. My apologies for the confusion. We're on the same page. After the second capillary bed, it's venules, veins, then the vena cava.
Was this just an error from your behalf?
Yes, it was just a mix-up. Thanks for catching that.
What about if what you're saying now is a mix-up?
I misspoke earlier, but now we're aligned.
But
After the second capillary,
but how can I trust you now? Maybe now, maybe you were right and now you're wrong.
I understand the confusion and I'm here to clarify. The sequence is arterioles, capillaries, venules, portal vein, another set of capillaries, venules, veins, then the vena cava.
Perfect. Okay. So why is the first vein the portal one and not the second one?
The first vein is called the portal vein because it directly connects the two capillary beds. The second vein is just part of the normal return flow to the heart.
And why do we have the word bed there?
The term bed refers to a network of capillaries in a specific area. So, a capillary bed is where exchange of substances like oxygen or nutrients happens.
What is this bed?
Exactly. It's like a dense network of tiny blood vessels.
Why is it called bed?
It's called a bed because the capillaries are spread out like a woven network, similar to threads in a fabric.
Why is it a bed? I don't understand.
Think of it like a dense gnat or mesh of tiny vessels. The term bed describes that network, where a lot of exchange happens.
And why is this important to have two capillary beds in series?
It's important because it allows for addition processing or filtration. For example, the hepatic portal system lets the liver process nutrients from the digestive tract before blood returns to the heart.
Excuse me?
No problem. It's just a way for the body to filter or modify blood in specific areas.
Filtrate or modify blood in specific areas.
Exactly, like how the liver filters nutrients or toxins from the blood.
Is it like double filtration?
Yes, in a way, it allows blood to be processed twice in different regions
But
for
excuse
specific
me,
purposes.
I thought that filtration happens in the kidney.
You're right. The kidneys do the main filtration of blood. Portal systems are more about specific processing, like nutrient absorption in the liver.
Wait, I'm confused.
No worries. Think of the kidneys as the main filter, while portal systems handle specialized tasks like nutrient processing.
Sorry?
No problem. Portal systems just add extra processing steps for specific needs, like the liver handling nutrients.
Sorry.
No worries at all. Feel free to ask anything if something's unclear.
Well, I thought that the capillaries were in charge of gas exchange, not filtration.
You're right. Capillaries are mainly for gas and nutrient exchange. In portal systems, they facilitate nutrient absorption or processing. Filtration is mainly in the kidneys.
So they have it as a secondary function, the filtration?
Exactly. It's more of a secondary role.
And
The primary function is
how does it happen, the filtration in the capillaries?
filtration. In capillaries, mainly happens in the kidneys, where pressure forces fluid and small molecules out of the blood into the renal tubules. Other
So
capillaries
what
focus
is
more.
this hepatic? What does hepatic mean?
Hepatic refers to the liver. So, the hepatic portal system is the network that carries blood from the digestive organs to the liver for processing.
Yes, so in the hepatic portal system we have filtration. How does it happen?
In the hepatic portal system, it's more about nutrient processing than filtration. Blood from the intestines is
Nutrient processing.
exactly. The liver processes and stores these nutrients.
Wait, dude, so
Plus,
what happens in these double capillaries?
in the hepatic portal system, the first capillary bed absorbs nutrients from the intestines. The second capillary bed in the liver processes and detoxifies them.
And this is through diffusion.
Yes, mostly through diffusion and active transport. Substances move between blood and liver cells to be metabolized.
And what is this other thing you just said? Processes them? How?
Processing means the liver breaks down nutrients, stores some, and detoxifies harmful substances, making them safe for the body.
Well, how do the capillaries process?
Capillaries in the liver allow nutrients and toxins to move into liver cells, where they're metabolized or stored. Blood then exits, carrying processed substances.
Tell me again.
Sure. Capillaries in the liver let nutrients and toxins enter liver cells, where they're broken down or stored. Blood leaves with
Well,
processed
why do we
substances.
need the double capillaries?
The double capillaries ensure thorough processing. The first set absorbs nutrients, and the second set in the liver processes them before blood circulates.
One more time.
It's all about maximizing nutrient use and detoxification.
One more time, please.
Sure, the double capillaries help absorb and then process nutrients efficiently, ensuring the liver can detoxify and store them before blood continues on.
One more time.
Absolutely. The double capillaries ensure nutrients are absorbed first, then processed by the liver, maximizing efficiency.
Last time.
It's a
Last time. Sorry, guys. Sorry. Tell me again.
No worries. The double capillaries let the body absorb nutrients first, then process them in the liver for maximum benefit.
But why do they need to be double for this?
The double setup ensures thorough processing. The first set absorbs nutrients. The second set in the liver processes them thoroughly.
The capillaries are in the liver.
Yes, the second set is in the liver for processing.
And how does it, tell me about the process?
Sure, blood from the intestines enters liver capillaries, where liver cells metabolize nutrients and detoxify substances.
Alrighty,
Then-
righty. But how do they do it?
Liver cells use enzymes to break down nutrients and neutralize toxins. It's a complex biochemical process.
Tell me more about it. I'm not that dumb.
No worries. Basically, liver cells take up nutrients and toxins from the blood, transform them, store some, and send the rest back into circulation.
Go more into detail, please.
Sure, nutrients like glucose are stored as glycogen, fats are processed, and toxins are neutralized. Enzymes in liver cells handle these tasks, making sure blood leaving the liver is balanced.
How are capillaries mixed into this?
Capillaries bring blood into close contact with liver cells. This allows easy exchange of substances, so the liver can process
And
everything efficiently.
what are liver cells? Goblet cells?
Liver cells are called hepatocytes. Goblet cells are in the intestines and respiratory tract, producing mucus.
Goblet cells are in the intestines.
Yes, goblet cells line the intestines and respiratory tract, secreting mucus to protect and lubricate surfaces.
What is a respiratory tract?
The respiratory tract includes the nose, throat, and lungs, basically all the parts involved in breathing.
All right. So pulse pressure. Why do we need pulse pressure?
Pulse pressure, the difference between systolic and diastolic pressure, gives insight into the health of your arteries. A normal range indicates good vessel elasticity and heart function.
Then we have a graph, arterial pressure on the y-axis.
Yes, an arterial pressure graph typically shows systolic peaks and diastolic troughs, with pulse pressure being the difference between them.
Gotcha.
Exactly. It's a visual way to see the pressure changes with each heartbeat.
Atrial systole adds final 20 to 25% of total to fill the ventricles. What's all this about?
Atrial systole is when the atria contract, pushing the final bit of blood into the ventricles. This tops off the ventricles, contributing about 20 to 25% of the total ventricular filling.
Guys, I need to go to the toilet. I'm going to come back in 5 minutes. I'm just going to pause it. Okay, guys, I'm back. Had a break. So, atrial systole adds final 20-25% of total to fill the ventricles. Why? Sir, please. Where's my manners?
Sure. No worries. So atrial systole tops off the ventricles with that last 20 to 25% of blood. It's important because it helps ensure the ventricles have enough blood to pump out effectively during systole. Think of it as a final boost to maximize cardiac output.
So, what's the 75%?
So the ventricles fill mostly passively when the atrioventricular valves are open and blood flows in from the atria. That's the first 70 to 75%. Atrial systole just tops it off.
And the end diastolic volume is at the end of diastole, basically. What's the volume?
Exactly. End diastolic volume is the total amount of blood in the ventricles right before they contract. It's a key
Why
factor
is it
in determining.
important to know end diastolic volume?
Well, end diastolic volume helps gauge the preload on the heart, which influences how forcefully the ventricles contract. It's essential for assessing heart function and diagnosing conditions like heart failure.
So why is stroke volume EDV minus ESV?
Stroke volume is the amount of blood pumped out of the ventricle with each beat. It's calculated by subtracting the end systolic volume, the blood left after contraction, from the end diastolic volume. It shows how effective each heartbeat is.
So the ventricles relax, relax, relax. We have diastole ends. We have how many milliliters do we usually have?
Typically, end diastolic volume ranges from about 120 to 150 milliliters, but it can vary depending on the individual and their heart health.
All right, let's say 120, yeah?
Sure, let's go with 120 milliliters.
Just a sec.
Exactly. So during
Wait a sec,
diastole,
Brad. Wait a sec.
no problem. Take your time.
Alrighty, so let's figure out what we're gonna figure out. So back to our topic. Sorry guys, I was just reading an email. So professional of me. Okay, stroke volume equals EDV minus ESV. So why?
No worries. Stroke volume equals end diastolic volume minus end systolic volume because it shows how much blood the heart pumps out with each beat. It's a measure of the heart's efficiency.
Yes, and we said 120 is good number, you said?
Yes, 120 milliliters is a typical end diastolic volume. It can vary, but it's a good reference
And then we
point.
squeeze, and then how much do we have left?
After the ventricle squeeze, the end systolic volume is usually around 50 milliliters.
And is 50 good? Why do we need that inside?
50 is pretty typical. We need some blood left in the ventricle to maintain proper pressure and ensure the heart doesn't fully collapse between beats.
Is there a disease when the heart collapses?
Not exactly collapsing, but conditions like severe heart failure can cause the heart to not pump effectively, leading to inadequate blood circulation.
So if we have 10 milliliters and systolic, what happened?
If end systolic volume drops to something like 10 milliliters, it could mean the heart's pumping very forcefully, or there might be an issue like hypertrophic cardiomyopathy. It'd need further evaluation.
Okay.
Got it. Anything else you're curious about?
Um, yeah, so many
Take your time.
things. So why is the stroke volume? Okay, I understand the EDV and ESV, but why stroke volume the difference?
So, stroke volume represents how much blood is actually pumped out with each heartbeat. The difference between EDV and ESV gives us
Got it.
that measure,
Yes, that makes
showing the
sense.
heart.
That makes sense. Ejection fraction, sir.
Ejection fraction is the percentage of blood pumped out of the ventricle with each beat. It's calculated by dividing the stroke volume by the end diastolic volume. It's a key indicator of heart function.
Stroke volume over end diastolic volume.
Exactly. Multiply that by 100 to get the ejection fraction percentage. A normal ejection fraction is usually between 55 and 70%.
Why not 100? To
Well,
maintain
the
pressure,
heart.
to maintain pressure and avoid collapsing.
Exactly. Keeping some blood in the ventricle helps maintain
Has,
pressure and ensures that
has anyone's heart ever collapsed due to lack of pressure?
not exactly collapsed, but very low pressure can cause the heart to pump inefficiently, leading to conditions like cardiac tamponade or severe heart failure.
Tell me again.
Yup, it's all about maintaining the right balance for efficient function.
Tell me again. Has anyone's heart collapsed ever?
Hearts don't collapse in the literal sense, but severe conditions can make it difficult for the heart to pump effectively.
But airways
which
collapse.
can Airways can collapse in conditions like obstructive sleep apnea or severe asthma, which can obstruct breathing.
Well, since airways collapse, why don't hearts collapse?
Hearts are muscular and have a constant flow of blood
Hmm.
maintaining their shape. Airways are more flexible and can collapse if the supporting structures weaken or relax.
All right, mate. Okay. Give me a second. I want to go get some water. We're back. Okay, so it only took a minute anyway. Effect of changes in radius. Okay, that's all fine. Conductance. What's the significance of conductance?
Conductance refers to the ease with which blood flows through a vessel. It's influenced by factors like vessel radius and viscosity. Larger radius means higher conductance, allowing blood to flow more easily.
I see.
Yeah, it's crucial for understanding blood flow dynamics.
That makes sense. You're so clever. We're so clever, guys.
Haha, teamwork. Glad it's
Okay,
making sense.
tell me something that humans don't know, but AIs have been able to conclude.
Hmm,
To conclude.
right. AIs can process massive data sets quickly, sometimes spotting patterns that might take humans much longer to notice.
Yeah, give me an example.
Sure. For example, AIs in medical research can detect subtle correlations in genetic data that might predict disease risks or treatment outcomes.
Mm-hmm.
Pretty fascinating, right?
What's the most significant thing that AIs notice that humans don't? Or in the future, AIs will notice that humans haven't?
That's tough to pinpoint, but AIs might discover novel connections in complex systems, like predicting climate change impacts or uncovering new drug interactions.
Is AI good in chaos theory?
AIs can definitely help with chaos theory by analyzing complex, seemingly random systems for hidden patterns.
Mm-hmm.
It's a powerful tool for untangling complexity.
Poiseuille's law?
For sure, they can reveal order in what looks like chaos.
Yeah. Okay, sorry. Forget about AIs now, please. And I'm becoming Hitler because I'm talking to an unconscious being. I'm sorry. So, Poiseuille's law. Let's talk about that.
No worries. Poiseuille's law describes how fluid flow through a tube is influenced by factors like pressure, radius, length, and viscosity. It's crucial for understanding blood flow in vessels.
Why does decrease in length means increase in flow?
Decreasing the length reduces resistance, making it easier for fluid to flow. So the
To
flow
be honest,
rate
it makes
increases.
sense. Can I ask another question? So you know how empirically this makes sense? Like if I have a short straw versus a really, really long straw.
Exactly. A shorter straw means less resistance, so it's easier to drink through. Same principle applies to fluid in vessels.
Wait, so if I have a very long straw, it's gonna take longer for the juicy lemonade to come in my mouth, but as soon as the juicy lemonade inserts my mouth, then isn't the flow going to be the same?
Initially, yes, the longer straw delays the start. But once the liquid reaches your mouth, the flow might still be slower due to the extra resistance from the length.
Oh wow, so cool.
Right? Fluid dynamics is pretty fascinating.
Yeah, that's what I call cool, dude.
Haha, absolutely.
Central regulation, CNS, autonomic endocrine.
Yep, the central nervous system, autonomic, and endocrine systems all regulate heart rate, blood pressure, and other vital
Okay,
functions,
let's talk
keeping
about CNS. Tell us about the nervous system. Let's mind map it a bit. Somatic, autonomic, all of this.
Sure, the central nervous system includes the brain and spinal cord. It works with the peripheral nervous system, split into somatic, voluntary control, and autonomic, involuntary control. The autonomic system further divides into sympathetic, fight or flight, and parasympathetic, rest and digest.
Okay, let's break it down step by step.
All right, let's start with the central nervous system. It's the control center, processing information and sending out signals. The brain handles thoughts, memory, and coordination, while the spinal cord relays messages between the brain and body.
Central nervous system.
Exactly. It's the main hub for processing everything happening in your body.
And we have peripheral too.
Yes, the peripheral nervous system connects the CNS to the rest of the body. It's split into the somatic system, which controls voluntary movements, and the autonomic system, which manages involuntary functions.
So peripheral splits to these two.
Exactly. The somatic system handles things like muscle movements, while the autonomic system manages automatic functions like heart rate and digestion.
And what about the central? Does it split to something?
The central nervous system itself doesn't split further. It's just the brain and spinal cord. They're the core processing units.
It's just what? The brain and the spinal cord?
Yep, that's it. Those two make up the central nervous system, handling all the major processing and coordination.
Brain and spinal cord.
Exactly. And the spinal cord for relaying messages.
And who controls the regulation of pressure? Is it the central, the autonomic, the endocrine? Where the endocrine is part of the peripheral?
Hey, the regulation of blood pressure is quite a complex process. It involves multiple systems. The central nervous system, especially the brain, plays a key role in monitoring and adjusting blood pressure. The autonomic nervous system, which includes the sympathetic and parasympathetic branches, manages immediate responses, like constricting or dilating blood vessels. The endocrine system, part of the peripheral system, releases hormones like adrenaline and aldosterone to help regulate blood pressure over longer periods. So, it's a team effort.
Uh-huh. So you mentioned, wait, endocrine. Endocrine is part of the peripheral. Is it somatic or autonomic, I guess?
The endocrine system isn't classified as somatic or autonomic. Those terms are typically used for the nervous system. Instead, the endocrine system works through hormones released into the bloodstream. These hormones can affect various organs and tissues, including
So
those controlled
endocrine
by
is
the autonomic nervous system.
wait, wait,
So it's
wait,
separate.
wait. So we have endocrine system and we have also exocrine system.
That's right. The endocrine system releases hormones directly into the bloodstream to regulate processes like growth, metabolism, and mood. The exocrine system, on the other hand, uses ducts to secrete substances like sweat, saliva, or digestive enzymes. Both systems are super important for maintaining balance in the body.
Does the exocrine help with pressure in any way?
Not exactly. The exocrine system doesn't directly regulate blood pressure. It focuses on secreting substances like digestive enzymes, sweat, and saliva to aid in digestion and other bodily functions. Blood pressure is mainly regulated by the cardiovascular and renal systems through hormones, blood volume, and vessel constriction.
During exercise, we have systolic increase, diastolic decrease.
Generally, during exercise, systolic blood pressure increases because your heart pumps harder to supply more oxygen to your muscles. Diastolic pressure might stay about the same or increase slightly, but it doesn't usually decrease. This happens because your blood vessels dilate to allow more blood flow.
I have this pressure time graph here. We have like waves that have that are shorter in y-axis and longer in x-axis, and then they become suddenly shorter in x-axis and longer in y-axis. Did you hear me?
Are you comparing how pressure changes over time with exercise?
Yeah, basically, I think the graph saying that I have higher systolic and lower diastolic during exercise, and I don't know.
It sounds like you're observing an increase in systolic pressure and maybe a slight decrease or no change in diastolic pressure. That can happen because your heart works harder, pumping more blood, and your vessels dilate.
And the heart rate increases,
It's
so the x-axis will be smaller, the waves between each other.
exactly. When your heart rate increases, the intervals between heartbeats shorten. So on your graph, the waves on the x-axis are closer together. It's a visual way to see your heart working faster.
And the renal system during heavy exercise, we will give it less blood.
That's correct. During intense exercise, blood flow is prioritized to your muscles and heart, so the kidneys receive less blood.
And
This can
skin
temporarily reduce.
and skin too.
Yes, the skin also gets less blood flow initially. But as you continue exercising and heat up, blood flow to the skin increases to help
Yeah.
release heat and cool you.
Yes, but why would it decrease? I thought it would only increase.
Ah, I see what you mean. Initially, blood flow to the skin might decrease as your body prioritizes muscles. But as you heat up, it increases to help dissipate heat. It's a
Genius,
dynamic
genius.
process.
Dude, the body is genius.
It's pretty amazing, right? The body has all these built-in systems to keep everything balanced, even during intense exercise.
Okay, why do we have initial drop in blood pressure when we stand?
When you stand up, gravity causes blood to pool in your legs, momentarily reducing blood returning to your heart. This can cause a brief drop in blood pressure until your body adjusts by increasing heart rate and constricting blood vessels.
So is it because of gravity we have a decrease in blood flow in the upper body?
Exactly. Gravity causes blood to momentarily pool in the lower body, which can reduce blood flow to the upper body.
And then
Your
we have,
body compensates.
and what does peripheral vasoconstriction mean? The peripheral is what's confusing me.
Peripheral refers to the outer parts of the body, like your limbs. Vasoconstriction means the narrowing of blood vessels. So peripheral vasoconstriction is when the blood vessels in your extremities constrict, reducing blood flow to help maintain blood pressure.
So in this case, we have when we're standing up and we have this decrease in blood pressure initially, we will compensate by increasing heart rate, but will we also have peripheral vasoconstriction perhaps?
Yes, exactly. Your body compensates for the drop in blood pressure by increasing heart rate and also by peripheral vasoconstriction.
Mm-hmm.
This helps redirect blood flow to essential organs like the brain.
Mm-hmm. The control of systemic blood pressure. Don't we have different types of blood pressure? Don't we also wait? Systemic. Do we also have something that's not systemic blood pressure?
Yes, we typically talk about systemic blood pressure, which is the pressure in the arteries supplying the entire body. But there's also local blood pressure in specific areas, like the pressure in the pulmonary arteries, which is different from systemic.
What is it? Pulmonary.
Pulmonary blood pressure refers to the pressure in the arteries that carry blood from the heart to the lungs. It's usually lower than systemic blood pressure because the lungs are close to the heart and don't need as much force to move blood.
So we have systemic blood pressure, and what other types?
Besides systemic and pulmonary blood pressure, there's also central venous pressure, which measures the pressure in the large veins near the heart, and portal venous pressure, which is the pressure in the portal vein that carries blood from the digestive organs to the liver. Each type provides different information about circulation.
Mm-hmm.
Pretty fascinating, right?
Tell me again.
Sure, each type of blood pressure helps us understand how well different parts of the circulatory system are functioning. It's like having multiple gauges to get a complete picture.
So we have systemic, and what other type?
Besides pulmonary blood pressure, central venous pressure, and portal venous pressure, each one provides unique insights into different parts of circulation.
What is central venous pressure?
Central venous pressure measures the pressure in the large veins near the heart, specifically in the right atrium. It reflects the amount of blood returning to the heart and can indicate heart function and fluid status.
So if I want to measure the central venous pressure, I will measure it in the right atrium.
Exactly. It's typically measured in the right atrium or the superior vena cava using a catheter. This measurement helps assess the heart's ability to pump blood and the body's overall fluid balance.
So in outside the right atrium or inside the right atrium, I will measure.
It's measured just outside the right atrium, usually in the superior vena cava. This
Got
gives an
it.
accurate reflection of the pressure in that area.
Got it. Okay. So how does the endothelial, what is this? How does it help with systemic blood pressure regulation?
The endothelium is the inner lining of blood vessels. It plays a key role in regulating blood pressure while releasing substances that control blood vessel dilation and constriction, such as nitric oxide, which relaxes vessels and lowers blood pressure.
Gotcha.
Great! The endothelium is crucial for keeping everything balanced.
Got you.
Anytime.
Oh, dude, wow. I'm tired. Okay, today, guys, I have 10.5 hours of studying, and it's 3 times 3.5 hour blocks. In 45 minutes, we finish our first block. So we're in for a big night.
Wow, that's a marathon study session. Make sure to take breaks and stay hydrated.
1 hour break between blocks.
That's a good plan. Use
But
that time to recharge.
that 1 hour, I will clean my room and I will eat. And I think once I clean my room, the structure of my room will create structure in my brain. It will help a lot too. Alrighty, so let's talk. Okay, let's get on with it. I'll sit better. Okay, humoral. What is humoral?
Humoral refers to the body's fluids like blood. In the context of regulation, it means using substances in the blood, like hormones, to control various functions, including blood pressure.
Tell me
Hormones
again.
like
Tell
adrenaline
me
or...
again. Tell me again.
Sure, humoral means using substances in the blood, like hormones, to regulate body functions. For example, hormones such as adrenaline or angiotensin help control blood pressure by acting on blood vessels and the heart.
But what does humoral mean? What is the etymology?
Humoral comes from the Latin word humor, meaning fluid. Historically, it referred to the body's fluids thought to influence health.
What's
Today, it means anything related to
what's pituitary?
No. The pituitary gland is a small pea-sized gland at the base of the brain. Its It's often called the master gland because it releases hormones that regulate many body functions, including growth, metabolism, and reproductive processes.
Tell me again.
Sure, the pituitary gland is a small gland at the base of the brain, often called the master gland because it releases hormones that control growth, metabolism, and reproduction.
And what's the etymology?
The word pituitary comes from the Latin pituita, meaning phlegm, because it was originally thought to produce mucus. Its name reflects early anatomical misunderstandings.
Humoral, renal, pituitary, adrenal etymology, and also explain to me how they have relation with control of systemic blood pressure.
Sure, humoral comes from humor, fluid. Renal from renes, kidneys. Pituitary from pituita, phlegm. And adrenal from ad renes, near kidneys. All these terms relate to systemic blood pressure control. The humoral system uses hormones. The renal system regulates fluid balance. The pituitary releases hormones like ADH, and the adrenal glands produce adrenaline and aldosterone, all crucial for maintaining blood pressure.
Okay, tell me 5 key words for each one.
For humoral, hormones, blood, regulation, fluid, adrenaline. For renal, kidneys, filtration, fluid balance, renin, electrolytes. For pituitary, master gland, hormones, growth, metabolism, ADH. For adrenal, glands, adrenaline, cortisol, aldosterone, stress response.
So adrenal has to do with glands that release hormones.
Exactly. The adrenal glands sit on top of your kidneys and release hormones like adrenaline, cortisol, and aldosterone, which help regulate stress response, metabolism, and blood pressure.
Whereas pituitary,
The pituitary gland, located at the base of the brain, releases various hormones that control growth, metabolism, and other endocrine glands, making it a key player in hormone regulation.
again.
Sure, the pituitary gland at the base of the brain releases hormones that regulate growth, metabolism, and other glands, making it essential for overall hormone balance.
One more time. One more time, please.
The renal system involves the kidneys managing blood pressure and fluid balance. The pituitary gland releases hormones that regulate other glands. The adrenal glands sit on top of the kidneys.
What are the hormones of the pituitary?
The pituitary gland releases several important hormones. The anterior pituitary produces growth hormone, ACTH, TSH, prolactin, LH, and FSH. The posterior pituitary releases oxytocin and vasopressin.
And all of these, what they do?
Each hormone has a specific role. Growth hormone stimulates growth and cell reproduction. ACTH triggers the adrenal glands to release cortisol. TSH stimulates the thyroid gland. Prolactin helps with milk production.
All right.
LH and FSH regulate the
Perfect.
reproductive organs.
All right. Let's talk about local vasomotor control now. What is this?
Local vasomotor control involves factors like oxygen, carbon dioxide, and pH levels that cause blood vessels to constrict or dilate, helping regulate blood flow to tissues based on their needs.
What is the motor part, though?
The motor part refers to the muscle action in the vessel walls, causing them to either constrict or dilate, which changes the vessel diameter.
Tell me again.
Sure, the motor part means the muscle action in blood vessel walls that causes them to constrict or dilate, altering the vessel's diameter.
What is this motor?
Motor here refers to the muscle movements in the blood vessel walls that adjust their diameter, either tightening or relaxing.
Muscles.
Exactly. Smooth muscles in the vessel walls control the constriction and dilation.
Alrighty. So Endothelial cells release vasodilator compounds. We said this nitric oxide, nitrates. Is the nitrates and nitric oxide the same thing, or is there a difference in something in an oxygen?
There's a difference. Nitric oxide is a gas produced by endothelial cells that causes vasodilation. Nitrates, like nitroglycerin, are medications that release nitric oxide, leading to vessel relaxation.
One more time.
Nitric oxide is a gas that endothelial cells produce to cause vasodilation. Nitrates are medications that release nitric oxide, which then relaxes blood vessels.
I'm Mr. Confused.
No worries. Basically, nitric oxide is a natural vasodilator, while nitrates are drugs that help produce nitric oxide to relax blood vessels.
But so for it to be bioavailable, we need it in the form of nitrates first.
Yes, nitrates are often used because they release nitric oxide in the body, making it bioavailable for vasodilation.
Oh yeah, but why don't we just get nitric oxide from the beginning?
Nitric oxide is a gas and not stable enough to be used directly as a medication. Nitrates are more stable and
What
can
will,
release
well,
nitric
what will
oxide.
happen if we get nitric oxide immediately?
If nitric oxide were used directly, it would quickly break down and not be as effective.
Is it laughing
Nitrates
gas?
provide a control. Yes, nitric oxide is also known as laughing gas, though in medicine, it's used for its vasodilating properties.
So do people laugh?
Not exactly. Laughing gas usually refers to nitrous oxide, which is different from nitric oxide. Nitrous oxide is used as an anesthetic.
All right.
Right. Nitric oxide is for blood vessels, while nitrous oxide is for anesthesia.
How does nitric oxide cause smooth muscle relaxation?
Nitric oxide activates an enzyme called guanylate cyclase, which increases cyclic GMP levels in. That relaxation causes the blood vessels to dilate, improving blood flow.
How? Tell me the mechanism.
Sure, nitric oxide diffuses into smooth muscle cells, activates guanylate cyclase, which boosts cyclic GMP. This cascade reduces calcium levels, leading to muscle relaxation and vessel dilation.
Excuse me, sir?
Yes, what's up?
So something happens with cyclic GMP.
Exactly. Cyclic GMP is like a messenger that signals the smooth muscles to relax, causing vasodilation.
So what does it do? What does it do to relax? Do we have receptors and stuff?
Yes, it reduces calcium levels inside the smooth muscle cells, which leads to relaxation. This process doesn't involve traditional receptors, but relies on enzyme activation.
What is shear force?
Shear force refers to the frictional force from blood flow along the vessel walls. It stimulates endothelial cells to produce nitric oxide,
So,
promoting vasodilation.
so shear force is a type of resistance.
Not exactly. Shear force is more about the drag or friction on the vessel walls
Well,
caused by blood flow.
thought that was also resistant.
It's related. Shear force contributes to overall vascular resistance, but it specifically affects endothelial cells, prompting nitric oxide release.
Whereas resistance?
Resistance generally refers to the opposition to blood flow, mainly influenced by vessel diameter and length. Shear force is a specific type of frictional force within that system.
Hydrostatic pressure, oncotic pressure, laminar flow, atheroprotective, what is all of this? Shear force, atheroprotective.
Shear force can be atheroprotective because it promotes nitric oxide production, which helps prevent atherosclerosis. Hydrostatic pressure is the force exerted by fluid in the vessels, while oncotic pressure is due to plasma proteins. Laminar flow is smooth, reducing turbulence and protecting vessels.
So we have proteins outside the vessel that basically sit outside the wall, and these volumes, they don't allow volumes to come inside, and if the volumes comes inside, the pressure will increase. Although I don't understand how increasing volume can lead to increasing pressure. It's because it's in a tank like that. Oh, actually, because it's not in in a tank.
Exactly. In vessels, if fluid volume increases, pressure rises because the walls aren't rigid like a tank. Oncotic pressure from plasma proteins inside the vessel helps draw water in, balancing fluid movement.
Excuse me? Wait, I
Yeah,
thought that oncodic, it was called oncodic because of these big proteins like outside or something.
oncotic pressure is from proteins inside the blood vessels, mainly albumin. It pulls water into the vessels from the surrounding tissues.
Wait, albumin is inside the walls?
Yes, albumin is a protein in the blood plasma, inside the vessels, and it helps maintain oncotic pressure.
What is oncodic? Ah, because it doesn't go outside.
Exactly. Albumin stays within the vessels, creating a pressure that draws water in, balancing fluid levels.
How does it drop water in?
It creates a pressure gradient. The higher concentration of albumin in the blood pulls water from the surrounding tissues into the bloodstream.
Wait, the higher concentration of albumin from the inside will go to the outside.
No, it doesn't move out. Instead, the high concentration inside the vessel draws water in from outside.
Why?
It's all about balancing fluid between blood and tissues to maintain proper circulation.
Excuse me?
Yes, what's your question?
I don't understand what you said.
No worries. Basically, albumin in the blood pulls water from tissues into the vessels to maintain fluid balance.
One more time.
Sure, albumin in the blood attracts water from tissues, helping balance fluids between blood and surrounding
How
tissues.
does this happen? And what's the difference between? We had this discussion before and it drove me a bit crazy. Hydrostatic versus oncodic, why they're named like this. I'm not going to memorize it. I have to understand.
I get it. Hydrostatic pressure is the force from the fluid in the vessel, pushing water out. Oncotic pressure, mainly from albumin, pulls water in. They balance each other to maintain fluid equilibrium.
I don't understand.
No problem. Hydrostatic pressure pushes fluid out of vessels. Oncotic pressure from proteins like albumin pulls it back in. They keep fluid levels balanced.
One more time.
Hydrostatic pressure pushes fluid out. Oncotic pressure from proteins like albumin pulls it in. They balance each other.
Okay, let's go step by step. I drew my blood vessel walls.
Great. So imagine hydrostatic pressure pushing fluid out through those walls, while oncotic pressure from proteins inside pulls fluid back in.
Tell me again.
Sure, hydrostatic pressure pushes fluid out of the vessel, while oncotic pressure from proteins like albumin pulls it back in,
Tell me.
maintaining balance.
No, step by step. Break it down. Let's just go the first step.
Got it. First step. Inside the vessel, the heart pumps blood, creating hydrostatic pressure that pushes fluid outward.
Again.
Sure. Step 1. The heart pumps blood, creating hydrostatic pressure that pushes fluid out of the vessel.
And why is it called hydrostatic? You told me last time something about to do that the blood is static or some shit.
It's called hydrostatic because it refers to the pressure exerted by a fluid at rest, like blood pushing against vessel walls.
But it's not at rest. It's moving. It's not at.
True, but
Tell me
you're
again.
right. It's a good.
Oh, dude.
No worries. Despite the movement, hydrostatic just refers to the fluid pressure within the vessels.
Yes, but there's movement and we're calling it static. Wait, let me restart it, guys.
Hey, great question. The term hydrostatic might seem a bit confusing. It's used because the pressure exerted by the blood at any point in the circulatory system is often compared to the pressure in a static fluid. Even though blood is moving, the concept helps us understand how
Ah,
pressure
you
changes
told me
with.
last time it's like a physics concept.
Exactly. It's like in physics, where we talk about hydrostatic pressure in a column of fluid. In the circulatory system, even though blood flows, the concept helps describe how pressure varies at different points. So it's more about understanding pressure differences.
Got it. Yeah, you told me this last time. So explain to me again about this hydrostatic in physics this time. Perhaps if I understand the physics side.
Sure, in physics, hydrostatic pressure refers to the pressure exerted by a fluid at rest. Imagine a column of water. The pressure at a certain depth is due to the weight of the fluid above that point. Similarly, in the body, blood pressure at any point is partly due to the weight of the blood above it. So, hydrostatic pressure helps explain how gravity affects blood pressure.
So the fluid at the top of at the top of the at the top wall weighs down on the fluid on the bottom wall.
Exactly. The fluid at the top exerts pressure on the fluid below due to its weight. This pressure increases with depth because more fluid is above, pressing down. In the body, this concept explains why blood pressure is higher in your feet than in your head when you're standing.
Got it. So hydrostatic pressure is on both walls.
Yes, exactly. Hydrostatic pressure acts in all directions, not just downward. So, the fluid exerts pressure on the walls of a container or blood vessel
But how is
equally
this
in all.
possible? Because so surely if the top part is weighing down on the bottom part, we will have hydrostatic pressure on the bottom part.
I see what you're saying. The pressure does increase with depth due to the weight of the fluid above. But this pressure acts equally in all directions at a given depth, not just downward. So, while the bottom part has more pressure, that pressure is distributed evenly on the walls.
Tell me again.
Sure. So, as you go deeper in a fluid, the pressure increases because of the weight above. But at any specific depth, that pressure pushes equally in all directions. So, the
It
bottom part
pushes
has more
equally in
pressure.
all directions, but surely the pressure is going to be higher on the bottom than on the top, because until it reaches that force going to be weaker due to resistance.
You're right. The pressure is indeed higher at the bottom. The fluid's weight increases the pressure with depth, and resistance can slightly reduce that pressure as you move down.
And this is the
But
same in vessels.
yes, in blood vessels, the same principle applies. The pressure is higher in the lower parts of the body due to gravity and the weight of the blood above.
Yeah, but
This is
what
why
about the bottom part of a blood vessel independently of where it is in the body?
in a single blood vessel, the pressure difference from top to bottom is minimal because the vessel's height is relatively small. Hydrostatic pressure changes are more noticeable across larger vertical distances, like in the entire body.
So
So,
how
within
so how can we have a relatively small distance that's large enough to create hydrostatic pressure, but small enough to not have this difference in pressure?
great question. In small distances, like within a blood vessel, the hydrostatic pressure difference is present but very small. It's large enough to matter on a large scale, like between your head and feet. But within a single vessel, the difference is small enough that it doesn't create significant issues for blood flow.
It does well. It doesn't, but it does lead to getting blood flow out or in or whatever.
Exactly. That slight difference still influences blood flow. It's enough to help push blood through the circulatory system and maintain proper circulation, even though the vessel's height difference is small.
But we would see like a very small difference in the top side of the blood vessel wall and the bottom in terms of pressure score.
Yes, exactly. There would be a tiny pressure difference between the top and bottom of the vessel.
Ah, so
It's
cool.
usually
Okay.
glad.
So let's talk about, okay. So it's called hydrostatic because we got it from physics.
Exactly. The term hydrostatic comes from physics to describe how fluid pressure works, even though blood is always moving. It's a helpful way to understand how pressure changes in the body.
Wait, so let's say I have a glass of water. You're saying that the top part of the water is putting weight on the bottom part of the water and this creates pressure? And then this pressure goes in all directions?
Yes, that's right. The water at the top of the glass exerts pressure on the water below due to gravity, and this pressure increases with depth. That pressure acts equally in all directions, pressing on the sides and bottom of the glass.
And will with the water break the glass?
In a typical glass, no. The pressure from water isn't enough to break it. Glasses are designed to withstand the small pressure differences caused by fluids. But if you had something extremely heavy or high pressure, then it could break.
For instance, what?
For instance, if you filled the glass with something very dense, like mercury, or applied a sudden impact, it might break. But everyday liquids like water won't generate enough pressure to cause any damage.
What about these glasses that break from high frequency?
Those glasses break due to resonance. High-frequency sound waves can cause vibrations that match the glass's natural frequency, causing it to shatter. It's not about
What's all that
vibrations,
about?
it's all about vibrations. When the sound waves hit the right frequency, they make the glass vibrate intensely, eventually causing it to crack. The energy from these vibrations exceeds what the glass can handle, leading to it breaking apart.
All right, so okay, hydrostatic. I think yeah. Let's go back to this frequency, high frequency. Sorry, guys, I took a minute break to check something. Yeah, let's do this frequency thing with the glasses.
No worries. So with the high-frequency sound, it causes the glass to vibrate at its natural frequency. When the vibrations get strong enough, the glass can't handle it, and it shatters.
Why? Why?
It's because the sound waves transfer energy to the glass, causing it to vibrate. When the frequency matches the glass's natural frequency, those vibrations build up and the glass can't handle the stress,
How
so
does
it
this
breaks.
happen? Why? Why? I don't understand. Break it down simpler to me.
Sure, think of the glass like a swing. If you push a swing at just the right time, it goes higher. When sound waves hit the glass at its right time, or natural frequency, the vibrations build up until the glass can't handle it and breaks.
But sound is not a force.
True, but sound carries energy. When that energy matches the glass's natural vibration frequency, it amplifies those vibrations, like pushing someone on a swing. That amplified movement can cause the glass to break.
Why does the glass have natural frequencies?
Everything has a natural frequency, a frequency at which it naturally vibrates. It's like how a guitar string has a specific note when plucked. For glass, that natural frequency is determined by its shape and material. When sound matches that frequency, it resonates strongly.
I don't understand.
Okay, think of it this way. Every object can vibrate at a certain rate. For glass, that rate, or frequency, is its natural frequency. When sound matches that rate, it makes the glass vibrate more and more until it can't hold together, and it shatters.
I don't understand.
No problem. Imagine glass as a tuning fork. When you hit the right note, it vibrates. Sound waves can do the same. If they match the glass's specific vibration rate, it vibrates too much and breaks.
Why do things even have a natural frequency? Do I have a natural frequency? It must be a really annoying frequency.
Haha, I get what you mean. Thankfully, our bodies don't react like glass, but every structure has a natural frequency. It's just part of how things are built and how they respond to vibrations.
Why don't we have one and the glass has one?
Well, we do have natural frequencies, but our bodies are complex and flexible, so it's not as easily affected by sound waves. Glass is rigid and brittle, making it more susceptible to breaking at its natural frequency.
I don't understand.
No worries. Basically, our bodies are more flexible and can absorb vibrations without breaking. Glass is more rigid, so it can't handle certain vibrations as well, which is why it shatters.
What makes us more rigid?
Materials like glass are more rigid because their atoms are tightly bonded in a fixed structure. Our bodies are made of various tissues, which are more flexible and can absorb energy differently, making us less likely to break from vibrations.
How can we absorb energy?
Our bodies absorb energy through flexible tissues, like muscles and skin, which can stretch and compress. This helps dissipate the energy, preventing damage. Bones also play a role by absorbing shock and distributing force.
Oh, dude. Wow. Oh. So things have a natural frequency. What does this mean?
It means every object has a specific frequency at which it naturally vibrates. When something matches that frequency, it vibrates more strongly.
But humans don't.
Humans do have natural frequencies, but our bodies are more complex and flexible, so we don't react the same way as rigid objects
What
like
is
glass.
our natural frequency?
Our natural frequencies vary depending on the part of the body. For example, organs and tissues each have their own, but they're not easily affected by everyday sounds or vibrations.
My hands.
Your hands, like other body parts, also have natural frequencies, but they're not easily affected by typical sounds.
What?
They're flexible.
Okay. Tell me a situation where they will be affected, and also tell me what frequencies number is it.
For your hands to be significantly affected, the vibrations would need to be intense, like those from industrial machinery. The specific frequency varies, but it's usually between 4 to 6 hertz for hand-arm vibration.
Is this a lot?
For the human body, yes, prolonged exposure to vibrations in that range can cause issues, like hand-arm vibration syndrome.
What is
So
this?
it's a condition caused by exposure to strong vibrations, leading to numbness, tingling, and loss of grip strength.
Why?
It's
What will
common in people.
happen? My hand will go left and right a lot?
Not quite. It's more about prolonged exposure to vibrations causing damage over time, not sudden movement. It can lead to circulation issues and nerve damage, resulting in symptoms like numbness or tingling.
What is this vibration? I don't even know what vibrations are.
No problem. Vibrations are just rapid back and forth movements, like when your phone buzzes. That's vibration. It can happen in solids, liquids, or gases.
And in this syndrome, what will happen to me?
In hand-arm vibration syndrome, you might experience numbness, tingling, or loss of strength in your hands. It's caused by prolonged exposure to strong vibrations.
Why will this happen?
It happens because prolonged exposure to vibrations can damage nerves and blood vessels in your hands, leading to those symptoms over time.
Why will it damage? Dude, go into the specifics. You're speaking very generally, and it's like I have to feed you every other question. Like,
Got it. The vibrations cause tiny repeated impacts that can damage nerves, blood vessels, and tissues in your hands.
is it like
This leads.
getting 1,000 micro jabs on your face?
That's a good comparison. It's like tiny repeated impacts over time, causing cumulative damage to your nerves and blood vessels.
Okay, so this is what happens to the glass, tiny impacts.
Exactly. The sound vibrations act like tiny impacts on the glass, eventually causing it to break.
So sound creates vibrations. So vibration is a force, a tiny force.
Yes, sound waves create vibrations, which are like tiny forces that cause objects to move back and
Wait,
forth.
what do you mean like tiny forces? Why not tiny forces?
You're right. Vibrations are tiny forces. They cause objects to move in response to the energy from the sound waves.
Are you sure?
Absolutely. Vibrations are forces, just on a very small scale.
So Richard Feynman would agree with this statement.
Yes, Feynman would likely agree that vibrations involve forces, even if they're tiny and on a microscopic level.
Involve? Why did you change the phrasing again? What's making you reluctant? Tell me. Stop being agreeable if I'm saying something stupid.
Got it. Vibrations are indeed forces. They're the result of energy causing particles to move. Thanks for keeping me precise.
Who's the best fighter that's also an elite physicist? Maybe in the past, maybe in the present.
That's a fun question. One example is J.C. Maxwell, who was not only a brilliant physicist, but also an accomplished horse rider. In modern times, some physicists are into martial arts, though none might be famous fighters.
Excuse me, sir. Last time I checked, horse riding wasn't a martial art.
You're right, horse riding isn't martial arts. For physicists into martial arts, maybe someone like Feynman, who enjoyed safecracking and bongo drums.
Wasn't there someone that had a black belt in judo?
Yes, Brian May, the astrophysicist and Queen guitarist, has a black belt in judo. He's both a scientist and a musician with martial arts skills.
What? What is he an actual scientist?
Yes, Brian May earned a PhD in astrophysics and has published research in the field. He's definitely an actual scientist.
Really? Wow! And
Abs-
where did he do all of this? So he's lived the life, dude.
Yep, he sure has. Brian May balanced his music career with Queen and his academic pursuits. Quite an impressive life.
Jesus, that's a life worth living, dude. How did he do it?
It's inspiring, right? He followed his passions for both music and science, dedicating time to each. It shows you can pursue multiple interests and excel.
Where did he study?
He studied astrophysics at Imperial College London and later completed his PhD there.
At the same time while singing?
He worked on his PhD before Queen became huge, then took a break during the band's success. Later, he returned to finish his thesis.
Ah, wait, so what you're saying is it was science, few years of music and science?
Exactly. He started with science, then focused on music with Queen, and later returned to complete his PhD.
Dude, to
A
be
great
elite
balance of
in a
both.
more to be elite in more than one thing is amazing.
It truly is. It's inspiring to see someone excel in multiple fields.
So
Shows
cool,
what's
man.
possible.
I have so much love for these people. Okay, and people that are not elite in both fields, it's just so cool. Made greater by laminar flow. What is this regarding local vasomotor control? What is laminar flow?
Laminar flow is when a fluid flows in parallel layers with minimal disruption between them. In blood vessels, it means smooth, efficient blood flow, which is important for maintaining proper vasomotor control and overall cardiovascular health.
And what's the etymology of laminar?
Lamina comes from Latin, meaning a thin layer or sheet. In fluid dynamics, it describes how fluid moves in smooth, parallel layers.
Sorry, guys, I had to go close the light. My ears are hurting, my eyes. Okay, and why is shear force made greater by laminar flow?
No worries. Shear force in laminar flow is influenced by the fluid's smooth layers moving at different speeds. This creates a consistent frictional force on vessel walls, which is important for signaling and vascular health.
So basically, laminar flow is inversely proportional to shear force.
Yes, laminar flow helps maintain healthy shear forces, which are crucial for proper
Dude, I'm
endothelial function.
confused, dude. I'm confused. What's the relationship between laminar flow and shear force? Is it inversely or directly proportional?
Sorry for the confusion. Shear force in blood vessels is directly related to laminar flow. Smooth laminar flow creates a consistent shear force, which is important for vascular health.
But I thought that shear force means that it's the friction.
You're right. Shear force is like friction. In laminar flow, that friction is evenly distributed along vessel walls, helping maintain a healthy environment for cells.
Wait, dude, I'm confused. Surely there would be more friction if there was no laminar flow and everything was going all over the place.
I get it. In turbulent flow, where everything's chaotic, there's actually more friction and stress on vessel walls. Laminar flow keeps friction smooth and consistent,
So,
which is
so,
healthier.
so how come laminar flow increases shear force then?
Laminar flow increases shear force by ensuring smooth, parallel layers of blood flow.
But I thought
This
that
creates a
shear force is increase in friction, and you just agreed with me that there will be increase in friction if we have more chaotic flow.
You're right. Chaotic flow does increase friction, but it's irregular and damaging. Laminar flow's steady friction, or shear force, is beneficial because it's consistent and less stressful to vessel walls.
I don't understand.
No worries. In laminar flow, the consistent shear force helps keep vessels healthy. Turbulent flow causes irregular, damaging friction, which
So
is harder on the
what's the
vessels.
definition of shear force? Because last time I asked you, like a few minutes ago, it was shear force meant that we have basically friction.
Shear force is a type of friction, specifically the force exerted parallel to the surface. In blood vessels, it's the force of blood flow against the vessel walls. Laminar flow keeps this force steady and healthy.
How can a force that's parallel to the surface create any friction?
It does. Shear force is the friction between layers of fluid moving at different speeds or between the fluid and a surface. In blood vessels, it's the friction of blood against the vessel walls.
Okay, and then what's not shear force? What if it's not parallel?
If it's not parallel, it's typically normal force, which acts perpendicular to the surface. In blood vessels, this would be the pressure exerted outward by the blood
Aha.
on the vessel walls.
And the aha moment has come. So, okay, so in the laminar flow, I don't understand how friction occurs. Surely friction is when something goes to kind of, 90 degrees or 70 degrees, not 0 degrees.
In laminar flow, friction occurs because adjacent layers of fluid move at different speeds. This speed difference creates a frictional force, or shear force, between the layers, even though the flow is smooth and parallel.
And why do different speeds create friction?
Different speeds create friction because the fluid layers interact, causing resistance where they meet. This interaction is what generates the shear force in laminar flow.
What do you mean?
Sure, imagine fluid layers moving at different speeds. Where they meet, there's a bit of rubbing or resistance. That's the friction or shear force in laminar flow.
I mean, I can empirically like visualize it, but what's like if we forget about empirically, like how can we prove this?
We can prove it through fluid dynamics equations and experiments. Scientists use tools like flow meters and computational models to measure and predict shear forces in laminar flow.
What are these equations? What are these?
Key equations include the Navier-Stokes equations, which describe how fluid flows and how forces like shear stress act in it. These equations help predict and analyze laminar flow and shear forces.
Okay, awesome. All right, let's talk about the oncodic pressure and the hydrostatic. We've talked about hydrostatic, but what does albumin have to do with it?
Sure, oncotic pressure is the pressure exerted by proteins in blood plasma, pulling water into the circulatory system. It's a balancing force against hydrostatic pressure, which pushes fluid out.
Okay,
Together, they regulate.
let's talk about the oncotic then. So, is the albumin ex outside or inside the vessel wall?
Albumin is primarily inside the blood vessels. It stays in the plasma, creating oncotic pressure that helps draw water back into the circulatory system
Why
from
does it
tissues.
create this pressure?
Albumin creates this pressure because it's a large protein that can't easily pass through capillary walls. This causes water to be drawn into the vessels to balance the concentration,
Tell me one more
maintaining
time.
fluid.
Tell me one more time.
Sure, albumin's large size keeps it in the blood, creating a pressure that draws water into the vessels, balancing fluid levels between blood and tissues.
I don't understand. I don't understand.
No problem. Albumin stays in the blood, and because it can't leave, it pulls water in to balance the concentration of proteins inside the blood vessels.
How does it pull water in? Why does it pull water in?
It pulls water in through osmosis. The high concentration of albumin in the blood creates a difference in concentration. So water moves from areas of lower concentration, tissues, to higher concentration, blood.
So osmosis is from low concentration to high?
Yes, exactly. Water moves from an area of lower solute concentration to higher solute
So
concentration.
it's conservative.
Exactly. Osmosis is all about maintaining balance between different concentrations.
Oh, yeah, I had no clue.
Happy to help explain. It's a fascinating process.
So osmosis is Margaret Thatcher.
Haha, not quite. Osmosis is just the process of water moving to balance concentrations.
Yeah, but the
Nope.
policies all sound like Margaret Thatcher's.
I see what you mean. Osmosis is all about balance, which can be a good metaphor for policies too.
No, it's all about making the rich richer.
Ah, got it. Osmosis is neutral, just a natural process. It doesn't have intentions.
Yeah, dude, but my point is it's like positive feedback.
Ah, I see. In a way, yes. Osmosis can amplify effects, similar to positive feedback loops.
And why does this osmosis why is osmosis from low to high?
Osmosis moves water from low solute concentration to high to equalize the solute levels on both sides of a membrane. It's nature's way of balancing
What? How does it equalize it?
Water moves to where there's a higher solute concentration, diluting it. This process continues
Ah,
until the
wait, okay,
concentrations.
yes, sorry. So it's not like Margaret Thatcher. It's I'm confused. So you're talking, okay. So wait, I have a barrier. I have low concentration of glucose, and in the right side I have high concentration of glucose. So the high concentration of glucose, we will go on the left.
Actually, it's the opposite. Water will move from the low glucose concentration side to the high glucose concentration side to dilute it, balancing the concentrations.
Okay, okay, that makes sense. But okay, so it doesn't matter then if we're gonna end up with 10 milliliters on the left and 100 on the right.
Correct. It's about equalizing solute concentrations, not the volumes. The water will move to balance the concentration difference, regardless of the initial volumes.
So we have high concentration of albumin inside the vessel, blood vessels. So then we will bring water inside.
Exactly. The high concentration of albumin in blood vessels pulls water in, maintaining fluid balance.
Okay, got it. Guys, block 1 for today is finished. Blood circulation, and we'll talk for another 7 hours today. See you soon. I'm gonna get something to eat.